Hello. In today's video, we're going to talk about every single Galactic Empire unit for Star Wars Shatterpoint. There are 40 slides, so I don't know how long the video is going to wind up being, but there are 40 slides. For those of you that have been following the Shatterpoint content here on Total Impulse, you'll know that I've done a full tag review of nearly everything else in the game now. Right after I've done this one, there'll be just a few odds and sods to go through. But I've done Rebels, I've done Republic, I've done Separatists, I've done Bounty Hunters, I've done Ewoks, I've done Dathomirian, like nearly every tag you can think of. Mandalorians, loads of them. So it's time for the big one. It's time for Galactic Empire, and there are a lot of there are a lot. I think Galactic Empire is the single largest tag or grouping in Shatterpoint at the moment. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 primaries, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 secondaries, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 supports. So there is some weirdness here because you'd think, oh, it's 10 boxes, but 1 extra support. Not so. Okay. So you got Krennic's box, which comes with an extra support, right? Darth Vader Emperor's Servant is a straightforward box. Moff Gideon is a straightforward box. Commander Iden Versio comes with a second support, right? Thrawn is a normal box. General Veers is a normal box. Lando can have the Galactic Empire tag, but his box mates can't. So we'll talk briefly about Lando in this presentation. We've talked about Lando before in Rebels, okay? But his box mates aren't there. Grand Inquisitor is a box that comes with an extra support. Darth Vader Jedi Hunter comes with a dual pack, so he's an individual kit. And CT9904 or Evil Crosshair is his own straightforward box. Then on the second row here for the secondaries, the ones that are not just straightforwardly things that come in an Empire box, we've got Boba Fett, who comes in the We Don't Need Their Scum Bounty Hunters pack, Darth Vader Fallen Master, who's also part of a dual kit, because so far every dual kit they've done has involved Darth Vader. I think that's it for weird secondaries, and then the supports I kind of covered. So you've got the Shore Troopers, the Imperial Special Forces, Fifth Brother, first 3 there. They're all like a second, so and Del Meeko at the end. They're all 4 of those. Well, no, sorry, not Del Meeko. Del Meeko or the ISF, but 3 of them are extra supports that come in boxes because Empire loves to have extra supports. Okay, let's go through. We're going to start with the primaries. And of course, we're going to start with Darth Vader, the first Darth Vader to release for this Star Wars Shatterpoint. My personal favourite Darth Vader Jedi Hunter. So we're going to start with his identity, because with primaries, I always believe in reading the identity first. I think the identity tells you a lot about whether or not this is going to be a good primary character. So Darth Vader Jedi Hunter's identity is your hatred makes you powerful. When an allied Galactic Republic, so yes, you can use them in Galactic Republic. We've talked about them a little bit before in the Galactic Republic presentation. Try not to worry about it. When an allied Galactic Republic or Galactic Empire character makes a melee attack as part of a combat action, after choosing a target, the attacking unit may suffer damage. If it does, the attacker adds 3 dice to the attack roll. So, okay, breaking this down in a lot of ways. One of the things that we'll see about Empire through the course of this presentation is that they are often invited to take some damage in exchange for an ability. And one criticism that's often leveled at Empire is that often they're taking damage for an ability and an equivalent unit in another faction would get that kind of ability without having to take the damage. So why Empire has to take the damage? I think there are a few situations where that's true, and I'll try and remember and flag those up for you as we're going through. But I certainly think in this case, your Hatred Makes You Powerful is a phenomenal ability. There's very little in the game that just gives you three dice, and generally things that do give you extra dice. So I'm thinking about, You know, Cassian can give himself extra dice when he shoots one of his allies in the back, right? Because he's done terrible things. Or Hondo can give out extra dice with fair what's fair, but he has to pass out a strain. Generally, for extra dice was always a downside, even outside of Empire. Bit of a side ramble. So I think this is a great and impactful identity. Yeah, the chip damage is a thing. You do have to be mindful of that, like I say, especially in Empire, where you could find yourself with a list with loads of different things all chipping away at your own units, and you could get yourself into a pickle. Obviously, you want to use this with other units that are powerful in melee, and there aren't that many things that are powerful in melee in Empire. It is generally more of a shooting faction. It's quite funny. This ability didn't used to be locked to Republic or Empire, so a lot of people like to take Vader Jedi Hunter with like General Grievous because he's a big melee bruiser that just wishes he had extra dice. But I actually think, personally, you can oversell the whole, well, Jedi Hunter needs to be stacked with other... Sure, have some other melee things in the list, but at the end of the day, Vader Jedi Hunter can use this on himself. And that is, by itself, that's really good, right? If you just treat this guy as a classic bruiser, primary, and you go, you know, I'm going to hit you with my lightsaber, right? And I'm going to roll 10 dice. Like, yeah, that's worth the price of admission, in my opinion, right there. We've got Vader's Fury. So you pay a force. Each character in this unit may dash during the next attack made by a character in this unit during this activation. Sorry, I misread that. It's a full move. During the next attack made by a character in this unit during this activation, after all dice rolls have been modified, add 2 damage to the pool. Like, okay, like General Grievous can pay a force to do a full move, and that ability is really good because you're getting a full move. There's not a lot in the game that gives you a full move for 1 force. This is getting you a full move for a force and 2 damage into the damage pool. It's really, really good. Really, really good. Really, really good. Then he's got Riposte. After a melee attack, targeting his character is resolved. The unit uses the ability if it contains one or more negative results. Misses. That's the one. The attacking unit suffers 2 damage. Ripostes, meh. It's fine. It's good. It's not bad. It's often not that impactful, right? It's neither here nor there. But the thing with Vader Jedi Hunter is his riposte can you know, stack with the Sith Lord Strikes Back. So the Sith Lord Strikes Back is a revenge trigger. When you are wounded by an attack after the attack is resolved, you can use the ability and then you can dash and do a 5 dice melee attack targeting the character that wounded it. Now, you know, you don't get your buffs. You can't have your 3 extra dice through Hate Remains Powerful because it's not he's not doing the combat action. And you can't have your extra damage from Vader's Fury. But what you can do, potentially, is have put 2 damage on them with Riposte. Right? And then a 5 dice. Like, it makes him pretty scary. It's pretty scary. Like, not only is he wobbling around murdering things, moving at the speed of light, right? Because he can do an extra full move, and he can do a 10 dice attack, just bullying his way up and down the board, as he should, right? And then you've got his stance card. So he's got. I really like Darth Vader Jedi Hunter. I think he's a bit good. So he's got Form 5 Gemso, which notice on his Gemso card he has a ranged attack. He's got a reasonable ranged attack, right? 7 dice. Only a 4-inch range. The expertise table is not the best on his ranged attack. You know, one hit on 2 expertise is kind of poor. Not seeing a critical 4 expertise is kind of poor. But, you know, he's not a ranged character, Darth, is he? He does, however, get a push on 1 and an expose on 3. So, you know, I think you deploy him in Gemso, and if your deck just says, nah, you've got to go with Darth Vader, and I think 99 times out of 100 with Vader's Fury, you're going to be able to get into the range to hit somebody. But if you're absolutely forced to go with Darth Vader and go, look, I'm going to have to go and stand on this point, that is a tactical play, at least you can grumpily lob your lightsaber at somebody's head, right? So it's a thing that's there. But I think you spend most of your game in Dark Rage. Dark Rage, yes, it turns off your melee attack, your ranged attack. Oh no! But it gives you a 7 dice instead of 6, a 7 dice melee. And look at the melee expertise table. 2 crits on 1 expertise is really good. Okay, now sure, it sometimes feels like, oh, I rolled 2 expertise, it's kind of wasted, but I'm still getting 2 symbols for 2 expertise, right? It's fine. And then you get 3 expertise, 2 crits, and a hit. You're still getting 3 symbols. I mean, this is just a really good expertise table, and you're going to get 2 extra crits on top of everything most of the time because you're usually going to get that 1 expertise. It's really, really, really good. And also, he's got 5 damage on 3. He's got 2 pushes with him, 3, right? Nine damage possible with 6 successes, which, given that he's making a 10 dice attack, doesn't feel like a pipe dream. Right, let me just count that up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Could be 10 damage if you got the 4 expertise, although that is unlikely, right? But still, like 9 damage. Also, he's 7 squad points, 4 force, so he does have that list building. He does have that list building issue, right? Where you're going to have to list build around his 7 squad points is kind of irritating. But you've got some good 3-point things that you don't. Not that many. I'm not a huge fan of the 3-point options in Empire, but they exist, right? Brings 4 force, which is great, and 12 wounds as well, which is above average. I'm just a big fan of Jedi Hunter because he is possibly the most powerful straight up melee character. He can move when he needs to, and he's got a revenge trigger. And he can have a sort of okay ranged attack. Try and go 3 down ranged attack, expose something. That's not bad use of your time, is it? There you go. Let's look at Darth Vader Empire Servant. So to explain how this is supposed to work, right? Darth Vader, Jedi Hunter, right? If you've seen the Obi-Wan TV show, right, or even I would argue the hallway scene at the end of Rogue One, maybe, but like the Jedi Hunter is supposed to be Darth Vader when he is fighting in a more agile Darth Vader as he's portrayed in modern media, basically fighting in that more agile, more violent, faster, more ruthless kind of a ridiculous nature, right? Emperor's servant is Vader as he's portrayed in in the original 3 films in from the 70s. So he's a lot slower, okay, and he's kind of got this more inevitable, slow kind of horror movie vibe. He doesn't have that extra full move going for him, okay. So let's look at what Emperor's Servant does. Emperor's Servant has an identity called You Cannot Hide Forever. At the end of this unit's activation, if no character in this unit wounded an enemy unit in that activation, and this unit's order card is not in the order deck or in reserve, shuffle its order card into your order deck. So this is a really interesting identity. It ensures that you can't go through a whole deck without wounding somebody with Vader, and I can see a world where that's really powerful because, to outline the thing, if you flip Emperor's Servant first and you're forced to just sort of walk onto a point and stand there, it doesn't hurt too badly because you're going to get another swing with Darth Vader later on. Okay. On the other hand, I think it's not without a risk because I can see a world where you just don't want Darth Vader, and you really, really want to get to activate something on the other flank, let's say, because this Vader not as fast as the other Vader. Okay, he's still got a dash, an extra dash he can do, but not as fast as the other Vader. Can't necessarily apply himself everywhere, and if you're playing one of the more spread out missions like Never Tell Me the Odds or First Contact, you might just be woefully out of position. You're like, oh, well, I've got Vader. Okay, well, I'll do some stuff, but ideally, I want this guy over here in this contested area, and then it's your turn again, and what happens is Vader again, and that is a worst case scenario. But I've seen it happen before when I've been playing against somebody who had Lando, who has a similar thing, right? You draw Lando, you shuffle him back in. You don't really want Lando, you want his force refresh, and then the very next turn, oh, it's Lando again. Right now, obviously, Vader is a lot more powerful than Lando Calrissian, don't get me wrong, and is more likely to be useful, but his identity just puts me off because it's introducing more luck than I like into the mix of things. Don't get me wrong, it could be really good, right? He could get shuffled in and end up a bit further down in the bottom of the deck and have, a kind of one of those tactical, impactful activations in one activation and then still get to murder someone. Because we've all had those turns where you're like, well, the smart thing to do is to move up here and dash onto here and secure this point, right? But I want to go and murder fools. And so it makes you not feel bad about doing the smart thing necessarily with Emperor's Servant. Your mileage may vary, but I don't like it very much. Right, let's look at the rest of his cards. So you've got power. You don't know the power of the dark side. At the start of the activation, it may remove 2 damage or 1 condition and then refresh a force. Fantastic, right? Fantastic. So this Vader heals himself and he supports your whole team by refreshing force, which is really good. But notice, sorry, I'm just the Jedi Hunter fan club. Notice he brings 1 less force than Jedi Hunter. So swings and roundabouts. Anger, hate, aggression costs you a force. 1 character in this unit may dash. Hooray, we got some movement. If it does, it adds 3 dice to its next attack roll during the activation. It's good. So you can, with this guy, you can actually make an 11 dice attack. You have to spend a force to do it, right? Rather than damaging yourself, but you actually get to make an 11 dice attack. And if I raved and was awesome about the fact that a Jedi Hunter got a 10 dice attack, an 11 dice attack must be better, except you are going to expose yourself if you miss with one of your, and the more dice you roll, the more chance you are to get a miss. And I don't know, being exposed. While you're probably, because you just fought a combat action, you're probably on a point, because most combat happens on a point. There's probably somebody that might go, actually, there's an exposed Vader Emperor's Servant over there, and he doesn't have the clapback of Jedi Hunter. Maybe this is the time that I can wound him, right? Which is worth trying to do because it makes this ability cost more, makes his next ability cost more. Yeah. Okay, he does have a little clapback, but it's not like a 5 dice attack. So I will read his clapback. So unwise slow your defenses. It's 3 damage if you roll a miss, but it's a gamble. You have to roll. You have to pay a force for it. Like, I don't love this ability. So because you have to be like, right, they have to be like, I'm targeting you with a melee attack, and then you have to be like, okay, I'll pay a force. And then they roll, and then hopefully get a miss, and they take 3 damage. I think you only pay for this either you look at the size of your deck and you look at your force economy and you go, oh, sugar, I've got 3 force and I've got 1 card left after Vader, and it's it's this Stormtrooper Sergeant doesn't need more than 1 force for his activation, so heck, I may as well. Sure, we have moments like that sometimes. Or if you look at it and go, well, this thing that's attacking me has literally got 3 health, so if I spend this force, there's a good chance I can kill it. But I don't think you generally want to just bath this away. I don't like gambly luck-based mechanics, and so this one doesn't please me. It's one of those things where I feel like you could put Darth Vader's Emperor's Servant onto the table, and if everything just lined up perfectly for you, you would have a really, really good day, and you'd be like, yes, this is the best model in Shatterpoint. But then I just feel like you could have other games where you're like, well, he hasn't quite performed there, has he? Because I got kind of screwed up with, he kept reappearing in opportune moments. I paid for stuff that didn't do anything. So, Zimbad, for example, never rolls misses. So much so that when he occasionally rolls a miss, he goes, oh, I rolled a miss. In a really kind of upset way. So, if your opponent is ridiculously lucky, maybe this isn't the best. Then we've got perhaps I can find new ways to motivate them. So, it's worth saying he does do stuff for the rest of your team. When he wounds an enemy unit, which he will reasonably often, another Galactic Empire character can dash. It's nice. It's nice because the global dash doesn't care where it is, and it's on the most basic tag, Galactic Empire. So, can't complain about that, right? Great ability, and makes up for the fact that I think this is, unlike Vader 1, who gives everybody the ability to hurt themselves for more dice, this is at least the thing he's doing for your team, which is nice, right? Let's look at his forms. So again, he has Shien, which brings him his ranged attack option. He's also got better defense dice, right? He's got very similar to Mama Remark about Vader 1. I will say he has better expertise in Form 5, right? Which is impressive. Okay, so his ranged attack is more likely to get like a crit and extra damage. If you do a quick ranged attack and you go 3 down your tree, you could be looking at like 5 damage dash for Vader. Sorry, a push for Vader, a push for everybody, and an expose, or 2 pushes and a pin. Like his ranged attack is definitely better than Vader 1. Then you've got Gem So, which is his more melee-oriented side, so he's got more dice in melee, doesn't have ranged. His expertise tree is so much worse than Vader 1. I really like Vader 1, and I really don't like Vader 2. His expertise tree is so much worse in this stance than Vader 1 in Vader 1's killing stance. But hey, 6 damage on 3 is impressive. Can't complain about that. And he gets 10 if he gets down the tree. His melee expertise is not that good. Would love to see 2 crits on 2. Still 12 wounds. So as you can probably tell, because I've laced my view all the way through, and the reason I made such a big deal about it is because I know, like, I almost want people to come into the comments and explain to me why I'm so wrong, because I know that the internet in general and Empire players I have known do not think, they either think that Emperor's Servant is just better, or that it's not as cut and dry as I think it is, and it's like, oh, sometimes this and sometimes that, depending on the alignment of Saturn or whatever else it might be. But as far as I can tell, I think Vader 1 is better. Don't get me wrong, if Vader 1 didn't exist, Emperor's Servant would be great, right? But because it's that thing where you can't have both of them, and you have to choose one, and I think if you're playing Empire, 99 times out of 100, no, not quite 99 times out of 100, but at least half the time, one of your primaries is going to be named Darth Vader, right? Let's move on. The Grand Inquisitor. I really like the Grand Inquisitor. Let's look at his identity. Clearly, you were a poor student. When an allied Galactic Empire character wounds an enemy unit after the effect is resolved, refresh a force. Brilliant. You could leave it there and it would be a brilliant ability. And an Inquisitorius character may heal. Bear in mind that Grand Inquisitor is an Inquisitorius character. Then, if the wounded unit was a force user, refresh a second force, and an allied Inquisitorius may heal. Now, bear in mind, the talk of the town the list everybody wants to run at the moment is Republic Jedi-based lists. So, you can't control whether your opponent is a Force user, but the odds of that being the case at like an event have probably gone up. But even without that extra Force user, Benny, just going, look, whenever anything in my list, because your whole list is going to be Galactic Empire, whenever anything in my list kills anything, I just get a Force back. I really like it on Cad Bane. Cad Bane is uninspiring in other ways, but he has that ability. The Grand Inquisitor has that ability, and as we're about to see, is inspiring in other ways. So he has a tactic. You know who we are. At the start of the unit's activation, choose an Inquisitorius secondary or an allied Inquisitorius support. One character in this unit and the chosen unit may dash. So a dash for me and a dash for thee, but you do have to be playing him with his box mates, those other Inquisitors. He can't just go into, like, you can make an argument of putting him into an Empire list with no other Inquisitors because he's still doing his identity and all his other bits and pieces, but this thing here won't work on anyone but Inquisitors, but it's still really good if you're going to play him with his boxmate. Then he's got Secrets Uncovered. It costs 2. Choose an active objective controlled by an opposing player. Remove the opposing player's control token from the chosen objective. So this is expensive, and honestly, a lot of the time you're not going to want to pay for it. But he's generating a lot of force for you. And it's one of those things where, because your opponent knows that you have this, and you might want to kindly remind them from time to time when they're about to activate a unit, it might make them a little reluctant. We've all had those games where people have gone, you know what, I'm going to move, I've got this back point, I don't think my enemy's got anything near the back point, I'm going to move some guys off the back point and send them to do something else. And it's like, cool, you moved off the back point, not your point anymore. That's what Grand Inquisitor says. It's not the best. Things have to line up. Your opponent has to leave a point that you leave a point without anybody on it for you to remove the opposing player's control token from the chosen objective. Or it's a point that one of his models is on, and one of your models is on, and one of your models is winning ties, so you get rid of the no, because it won ties. Ignore me. Yeah. Yeah. The temple records are quite complete. Cost of force, it's similar. So when this character is targeted by a melee attack, you can use the ability to change your active stance. I don't feel like paying a force to change my active stance by itself is particularly useful. So I don't think I'd ever do it in that instance. Because I don't think there's, if you look at the defensive expertise, sure, there's not a massive gulf between them. Would I rather have 2 blocks on 1 or 2, or a block and a crit to hit? I'd rather have 2 blocks, probably. On the 3, though, I'd rather have a crit to a miss, a block, and a crit to a hit, for sure. On 4, I'm not going to roll 4, right? So, by itself, flipping your stance, maybe you want the extra dice from Form 2. By itself, a force flip stance doesn't seem worthwhile, but if you read that last sentence, if the attacker is Force user, it also adds 2 dice to the defense roll. That part, I think, is really good. So you keep this and you use it if you're being attacked by a Force user in melee, I guess. Let's look at his stance. So you've got Form 5, Gem So, which brings us, interestingly, a dash on his ranged expertise on his thrown lightsaber, which is amazingly weird. He's got a push on 1. He's got a repo on 2. So, you're going to deploy in Form 5, and you're going to be like, well, if you let me, maybe I don't have enough movement to get exactly where I want to go, but if I throw this lightsaber at you, and I get to go 2 down my tree, I can get a dash and a repo, and then I'm going basically anywhere. That's quite nice. But Form 2 brings an extra dice of melee, right, which is very relevant, and a better melee expertise table for sure. And then you got 4 damage on 3 in both stances, but your Form 2 gives you 7 damage on 4, which is really good. And you top out at 10. Like I say, better melee expertise and more dice, really good. Let's look at Grand Admiral Thrawn. So, Grand Admiral Thrawn's identity is to defeat an enemy, you must know them. Characters in allied Galactic Empire units that have 1 or more injured tokens that are engaged with all enemy characters have protection. Additionally, when an allied primary unit is wounded by enemy attack after the effect is resolved, you may refresh your order deck. This is weird. So, okay, let's break it down into 2 halves. All your stuff having protection once it's wounded is pretty good. You know, it. It's pretty good. Protection's a powerful ability. Yeah, it's a weird one because it's like, oh, I have enough protection, but once it's wounded, like, well, okay. I get the principle because it's called to defeat an enemy, you must know them. So you're learning the opponent's strengths and weaknesses, and then halfway through the game, you kind of lock in and become more powerful. So I get it. It's fluffy. It's cool. It's fun. It's interesting. It's nice to have. It doesn't make me want to include Thrawn or make me go, yeah, Thrawn. Woo, 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 woo. And then when a primary unit is wounded, you can, as a revenge trigger, refresh your order deck. There are situations there where you're really you're going to be like, oh hell yeah, I can refresh my order deck. Now I have Force again, and my really powerful like Darth Vader in the other squad like is back in my order deck. Although possibly a poor example, but my really powerful something is already gone, or my Shatterpoint is back in my order deck. And there's going to be times where you're like, I can refresh my order deck. That's cool. But I don't think it's going to, weirdly for a revenge trigger, I don't think it's going to affect the way your opponent plays. It is going to make it hard for opponents to know what you might activate next, for sure. It doesn't sing to me. And then he's got his activated no tactic. Activated ability, I want you to know failure, utter defeat for a force. 1 character in this unit may repo. Cool. If it ends that move contesting an active objective, it gets to add 3 dice to its next attack roll. Very good. Very, very good. Extremely good. Amazing. It's like Darth Vader's abilities, but like even better, right? So, and Thrawn's not bad at fighting, right? So, 10 dice melee attack, potentially an aggressive assault, repo onto an objective. Yeah, I'll take it. It's not really what you think of Thrawn doing, but yeah, you know what? I'll take that for sure. That's cool. Battle tactics. Architects their own destruction. When you create your starting order deck, you may include up to 2 grand strategy battle tactics cards. When you draw a battle tactics card, resolve the effects of that card, and then reveal another order card and continue as normal. So I have a whole second slide about battle tactics. So we're just going to put a pin in that and be like, well, the battle tactics are going to come along. In fact, I'll do it now. Right, we'll go forward and back. We can do that. So battle tactics. Let's have a look. I've cropped out the picture from one of them just to organize my slide nicely. So the first one is sometimes brutality serves a purpose. So the way these all work, you have 2 abilities, okay? You have 1 in grey and you have 1 in white. And the way I think they've written them is like the 1 in grey is the interesting, complicated, situational one, and then the 1 in white's like, well, if that's not useful or relevant at the moment you've drawn this, the 1 in white will always be pretty good somewhere, generally speaking. So his grey ability is choose an active objective within 5 of Thrawn. Each character within 2 of the objective may dash, and then each unit within 2 suffers 2 damage and removes all of its hunkers. And then, if the effect is chosen, you can activate a unit from your reserve deck instead of revealing the next card in your order deck. Having to dash your own stuff off an objective or suffer damage is sad. And I'm not sure your opponent, like, there may be a very narrow circumstance where you want that, but it's very unlikely. And then you've got the white one, which is choose an enemy character and an allied Galactic Empire supporting unit. The choose an enemy character and an allied support. The chosen unit may suffer 2 damage. If it does, yeah, each character in that unit may dash towards the chosen enemy character. Man, right? Do you remember how I said that the Empire's theme was like damaging themselves, and sometimes it felt really valid, and sometimes it's like, what? This is one of the times where you're like, what? Why am I hurting myself just to get a free dash? No thanks. Yeah, no, this card is trash, and I don't think you ever take it. Basically, you're choosing 2, and I think you are always choosing the other 2, because this card makes me sad in every way that I can be made sad. Okay? Then let's look at I expect results, not perfection. So, the grey ability, so that's the more complicated and situational one. During the next allied unit's activation, it gains the following ability. Reckless Gambit. Choose an allied character. So this is first of all, this is an activated ability that costs 0. So if you choose to, if the next thing you activate has a wound on it, you have to pay a force to do this. Important. Choose an allied character and an enemy character it's engaged with. Push the chosen enemy character 2 away from the chosen allied character. Then the chosen allied character suffers 3 damage. If this effect is chosen, you may activate a unit from reserve instead of revealing that card in your order deck. So this is actually really good in a couple of ways. Because, first of all, giving you something 3 damage is generally really bad, but the benefit you're getting from it is diceless displacement, which is a pretty rare and not often like found ability in the game. It's only on a few things here and there, right? So it's always worth kind of raising an eyebrow whenever it comes up. So it's great to have the option. And then the other slightly interesting trick on this, which might rarely come up, but let's say you have a situation where you've got a point and there's been a lot of fighting over the point, and you've got a couple of characters on the point, one of which is wounded and one of which is not. So you could, or even if it's even if, because of the way this works, you've just got a wounded character on a point, you can Reckless Gambit the allied character that you choose, right? So you've got a wounded guy on a point. The allied character you choose is that wounded character, right? Okay. And then it pushes an enemy character 2 away from it, and then it suffers 3 damage, but it can't suffer 3 damage because it's wounded. Can't take damage once you're wounded. And then, after the effect resolved, you activate a unit. Potentially you have that wounded character in reserve. It's perfect. You can go for that wounded character. Or if there was another unwounded character on that point, so the wounded character pushes the thing off, and the other character's like, cool, that's my point now. So just be aware that you can use the Reckless Gambit on a wounded model and avoid the damage that way. But even if you don't have that option, I think for something as useful potentially as a diceless displacement, you might consider taking the 3 damage. But then let's say you draw this, because it is random when you draw it, and there's no way you want to push someone off point. It's not a thing. You haven't got anybody in the right position. That's fine with the white ability. Remember the way these are structured. Grey ability, supposedly strong, but highly situational. White ability, choose an Allied Galactic Empire supporting unit or an Allied Galactic Empire secondary. Each character in the chosen unit may dash, and then it uses all of its hunkers. Man, this is so much better than taking 2 damage. So first of all, you're getting a dash. It doesn't have to be towards anything. It can be whatever you want. It's for both characters in a 2-body support, if you have one, right? And then you lose any hunkers you might have, but you may well not have any hunkers. So this is a really good card. Right, I think both of its abilities, both its kind of main ability and its kind of backup ability, are both in their way really powerful. Then we've got turn their strength against them. Okay. So the big grey ability, during the next unit's activation, the first time an Galactic Empire character makes an attack as part of a combat action, if the target is contesting an active objective, it may add 1 expertise to its attack roll for each block result in the defense roll. If it does, after the combat action has been resolved, the activated unit is disarmed. If the effect is chosen, you may activate a unit from reserve instead of revealing the next card in your order deck. It's not expertise, it's expertise, isn't it? It's yeah. Um yeah. Hey, you might want to do it, right? If you've got a good expertise table, and if getting that wound on that character on that point in that fight is really, really important to you, you might choose to use this. And then the white ability, the more kind of generally applicable ability, because it's a movement ability for anyone on the table again. Choose an allied character. The chosen character may full move. Score, yeah, good. And then if it's Galactic Empire, Mercenary, or Bounty Hunter, it can instead repo. Oh, okay, cool. But then it gains a strain, and you do have to be careful with strain. Strain's less appetizing, but it's not awful. A reposition is a powerful boon. I like this less than I expect Rules Not Perfection, which I think is just the best card. But it's better than Brutality Serves a Purpose. And it's also worth saying, let's say you draw and you don't want the battle tactic, you can just choose an eye character, you know, and then it makes attacks part of a combat action. It may add a dice, right? If it does, a bad thing happens. You can just go, oh, I've drawn this, oh, I select this character, but then I don't do the effect, so nothing happens. So never feel like you should not put the card in your deck. You may as well put it there. All right. It's the same for the other one. You just give something Reckless Gambit and then never use the ability. So there's always a null. There is a I choose not to do anything option. If I don't want to do any of the things, I don't want any of the downsides, whatever reason, there's never a reason to say I don't want the cards in my deck. Because the way it's worded here, you may include up to 2 grand strategy cards. So you might be thinking, oh, I'll just put I expect rules, not perfection in. But no, you may as well have to, because you can just ignore it if it comes up, right? So wait and watch. We must wait and watch. When you spend a force to place a Galactic Empire unit's order card in reserve, spend 1 less force. Reserving for free is really, 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 really good. Then, if there's 1 or more cards on your order deck, you may spend a force. If you do, the reserved unit may remove a damage or 1 condition, and 1 character in that unit may reposition. So you can either, essentially, you can either reserve for free, or you can reserve and heal and repo the thing that you've reserved every time you choose to reserve a character, which is potentially really strong, especially if you have if you're in a situation where you have an unwounded character that you can just repo onto a point and get that point without having to make that your activation. That's really powerful. Right now, obviously, you'd have to be doing something like running either there's just an open point standing there that nobody's on, or you've got one of the Inquisitors that breaks ties, or I guess Moff Gideon breaks ties, something like that. So that's powerful. I really like that ability. Overall, Thrawn's pretty cool, and I'm sure you can build really good discs with him. He doesn't appeal to me. But let's look at his stance cards. Oh, it's also worth saying as well, sorry, the heal and the reposition is good because the heal part's good because you might have somebody that you don't like. You offer sometimes you go, oh, I activate this guy, oh, I'm going to reserve him because he's pinned or strained or he's going to have a dead activation, and I'll leave him in reserve until I find a way to heal him. This just gives you that heal, which is pretty good. Stances. Aggressive assault, I think, is pretty great. 5 damage on 3, right? A push on 1. A repo on 3 if you get to it, right? The full tree is 10 damage. And then with your +3 dice from I Want You to Know Failure or to Defeat, I don't think getting full tree is totally a pipe dream. Strategic Genius, as you might have guessed, is much less straightforward. But you can get access to nearly any condition that you would like via Strategic Genius if you're trying to mine out for a particular condition. Yeah. His expertise tables are pretty good. Chess martial arts having a pin on 1 in melee is pretty interesting. Yeah, they're not amazing expertise tables, but they're not poor either. Right. Over we go. Krennic. Peace and security for the galaxy. At the end of this unit's activation, if its active stance is high aspirations, choose an active objective that you're contesting and control it. You cannot lose control of the objective until the end of next turn. While this unit is not wounded, if its active stance is arrogance, you reduce the cost of the first active or reactive ability it uses each turn by a force. So this is really interesting and really powerful, but I think it has a high skill ceiling in terms of when are you getting the best out of it. You can definitely imagine a big turn 1 where you deploy in arrogance, so you're at least getting deploy the garrison for free, okay? And then you move and get onto a point, and maybe you flip onto high aspirations so that you cannot lose control of that objective. But like, are you needing to do that turn 1? Do you know, because turn 1, well, his first activation, like maybe it depends how far down the deck he comes. So that could be a good use for Krennic. His first, if he's quite late down in the deck and something reasonably near to him is already jammed up and contested with opponents' models, just being able to walk onto an objective and contest it and go, you know what, high aspirations is mine. That's pretty good. But just looking quickly at his card, because so many of his abilities, other than deploy the garrison, are reactions, there's a great temptation to want him to be in arrogance early game, like as in before he's wounded, so that you can get his reactions for free as well. Depends on the rest of your list and your force situation. Hard to use, and you've got to weigh that in with his like what his stances are actually doing for you as well. So I think even if you do this identity badly, I think it's going to create a tangible benefit for your list, right? And I think there's a high skill ceiling there to make sure that you're always in the relevant stance to get the relevant thing that's the best at that time. So, can deploy the garrison, choose an allied stormtrooper support. The chosen character may dash towards the active objective, and then it gains a hunker and make a 5 dice attack. Really good. Really good, and you can have both your supports being stormtrooper tagged easily. Easy thing to build into, and potentially free to do that if you're in arrogance as well, which is great. And then you've got 2 reactions. So you've got your concerns are hardly warranted, does cost 2 force. When another allied unit becomes wounded, before the opposing player gains 1 more momentum, use the ability. If they're not, if this unit may use this ability if it's not wounded, the opposing player gains 1 less momentum. Like, this is really good. It means that it's funny because it's 2 force, but you can't use it once you're wounded, and also you can't get your force discount from arrogance once you're wounded. So I'm not sure ever spending 2 force for this. It's a good argument for leaving him in arrogance early game just to get this for 1, right? And being able to just chuck in that 1, especially if he's paired with Vader, either Vader, because Vader 1 brings 4 force, right, which he kind of needs because he only has 2 force. But Vader 2 brings 3 force and a force refresh, both of which are going to help, right? And then you can just be like, yeah, I spent a force, you don't get that momentum. And that could be really impactful. And then we stand here amidst my achievement. So again, it costs force, but could be free if you're in arrogance. And then when another allied primary or secondary character wounds an enemy unit after the effect is resolved, this unit uses ability. One character in this unit may dash and make a 5 dice attack. So you get a revenge trigger potentially for free. Not a revenge trigger, a prevenge trigger, right? Because whenever a primary or secondary wounds someone, you also get to go and do a thing. That's pretty good. So obviously he wants to be paired with some quite killy primaries and or secondaries if possible. Again, I like him with Vader, right? Thematic as well. It's a lore win. Let's look at his stances. What's he doing with his 5 dice attacks and things like that? So high aspirations is great. Push on 1 and 2 if that's where you want to go with it. 5 damage on 3, which is pretty good. You can also get to that heal on 3, which, you know, given that if you were making if you decided that you wanted to make a melee attack with Vader and you did a 9 dice melee attack and took some damage, you might really want to get hold of that heal. It's nice when Empire stuff has heals early in its tree, for sure. But saying that, Krennic probably doesn't want to be in melee because, well, his melee expertise table is not the best. Generally speaking, his expertise tables are his weak point, right? His ranged expertise or high aspirations is okay, you know? It's okay. Got a repo on 4 if you want to get that far, or a free deploy the garrison, I guess, but that's not as relevant, is it? And then you've got your arrogance side. Now, maybe you're in arrogance because you want that force discount, right? It is worse. And I think the only reason to really go into arrogance is, well, maybe you deploy in arrogance because you got longer range pistol shot, which is a thing, right? But I think really the only reason you find yourself in arrogance is because you want to benefit from the identity, which is, you know, so yeah, I guess you deploy in arrogance. So you have him sat there in deployment in arrogance, and then you hope that he comes later down the deck, or you reserve him. And then you've got the benefit of your reactions, right? But the trouble is with saying all this, okay, if you're in arrogance so that you can get your revenge, your trigger for we stand here amidst my achievement for free, but then, well, it's not so bad because the fact it's a 5 dice attack kind of negates the downfall of the last dice, and this tree isn't awful. Okay, yeah, I really like Krennic actually. He is tricky to use to his best of his abilities, but I think even using him badly, he's going to do well. I think he does have a bit of a skill ceiling to him, though. I can see that for sure. 9 squad points, 2 force, so he's doing the Cad Bane thing. I think, like I say, you pair him with either of the Vaders to shore his force, or GI, right, again with the force refresh. So there are other primaries there with options to make your force balance work out for you. And 9 squad points does give you a little bit of flexibility as well, which is nice to have. Moff Gideon. You have something I want, is his identity. When an allied Galactic Empire character performs a melee attack as part of a combat action, if the defender is contesting an active objective that you do not control, add 1 dice to the attack roll. I mean, usually when you're performing a melee attack, you're doing it on top of an active objective, so it's be reasonably often that you're getting to put in that extra dice. Bear in mind that it works on him and he has a dark saber, so that's pretty good. Also, he breaks ties, which is great. In fact, it's better than that. When it's only control an active objective, the character in this unit is contesting. No, yeah, he breaks ties. That's fine. Good. Like Vader 1, he wants to go with people who like to melee. Could take him and Vader 1 in the same list. That could be a thing. Although there are probably other combinations. in some ways, I kind of see this guy as kind of like Pound Shop Vader in that respect, right? You're like, well, this list wants Vader, but I'm using Vader elsewhere in my Premier list, so I will put Moff Gideon in this list. Does the job, right? Smug Determination. At the start of this unit's activation, choose an Galactic by character within 4. Each character in this unit and the chosen character may dash. That's nice. He's got a pretty standard dash for me, dash for thee. It does have a range limit. I don't love the range limit, but it doesn't cost any force. It's fine. Long live the Empire, right? You need to pay a force. Choose an active objective and an Empire support. A character in the chosen unit may repo towards the objective, and then it suffers 2 damage. If the effect wounds the chosen unit, though, it can remove the wounded token, all the damage, and the condition, and it gains its injured token. I don't know that you want to use this every time you activate Moff Gideon, but if repoing something onto an objective, like one of your supports onto an objective, is going to flip that objective for you, and then you're going to be able to go and use Moff and do something else. Bear in mind there's no range limit on this, so you can affect both sides of the table. Then it's worth the pain. And the fact that even though it inflicts 2 damage, you can do it on somebody and they just get to automatically recover from wounded and therefore still be taking that objective that turn is really good, right? And then he's got Assume That I Know Everything. When an opposing player would spend a force to place his order card in reserve, they must spend an additional force. It's like, it's not going to help you win, it's going to help your opponent lose. It's this awesome passive tax on your opponent's cognitive load. Because quite often when you're building a list, you have lists where you go, oh, I've built my list. And in the back of your mind, it's like, look, there's one unit in here that if I draw this, it's always that draw one of first draw of the first round of first game, first activation is always a fiddly one. And there's always units where, look, I know if I draw this in the first round, first game, I'm going to reserve it and I'm going to have to draw again. And this just makes that really painful. So that's really good. Stances. So you got 2. You got Burn Them Out and Self-Interest. Loosely, Burn Them Out is the melee stance, and Self-Interest is the range stance. You can just judge that from the die. Although the melee expertise table is as good in both. In Burn Them Out, there's an extra dice in melee. In Self-Interest, there's an extra dice at range. His range expertise is honestly pretty bad, although getting a pin is not bad. But given that your opponent has something that you want right, you're going to want to be doing melee with Moff Gideon when you can. So after I find Burn Them Out to be far more impressive, you've got 4 damage and 2 shoves on 3. 9 damage if you full tree. Right. Self-interest has less interest to me. Except I will say about self-interest that it has the thing where if you're going to have to shoot, then self-interest makes your gun actually not awful. So that's fine. Maybe you deploy in self-interest just for that purpose. Defensive expertise is pretty much the same. So yeah. Quite fond of Marv PC. He's pretty selfish, not totally selfish, pretty selfish, but pretty strong. Does stuff, and yeah, like I say, he just goes anywhere. Doesn't need to care what the rest of your list is. He will improve any list that he touches. So if you're struggling, like maybe because you're playing in a Premier and you've already used Vader, or just because you don't know what other primaries to take in a slot for some reason, Moff Gideon can go in any list, and he doesn't detract, I don't think, from that list. General Veers. General Veers is really cool because he's one of the few like grey uniform wearing Imperial officers that we see that never fails, never has to confront failure, never has to like go and answer to Darth Vader for being a bit of a melt, right? He's given his orders, which is like drive your AT-AT over there and break through the rebel lines, and yeah, sure, some of the AT-ATs fall down, but he's all right. He's a good bloke. He does his thing, right? It's Hoth does not stand. Okay, sure, the heroes get away. Maybe he could have been a bit faster, but the problem was in the design of the AT-AT. I'm rambling because General Veers is not an impressive model in Shatterpoint, and I feel the need to stick up for him somewhat because he's an impressive dude. But like outside of his AT-AT, what's he doing? Well, what he's doing is calling in off-board artillery. Okay, so we are the storm, right? Identity. The identity, I think, invites you to imagine an AT-AT just behind the board. At the end of his activation, choose an objective. Each enemy character within 2 of the objective may dash. Then each enemy unit within 2 of the chosen objective suffers 3 damage, and each ally within 2 suffers the damage. You can force your opponent to dash off an objective. It's at the end of your activation. So it's not like you can do this, see how they react, and then move something onto the objective or what or not. You're doing this, and your opponent has full knowledge of if I move off the objective, then this unit that is stood there will take the objective. Or if I don't move off the objective, I'll take this much damage and survive. If your opponent is in a situation where it's like, well, this unit has only 3 health, and therefore I either dash it off and cede the objective to you, or I die and cede the objective to you, then it will win you a game, I guess. But that's quite a narrow path for Veers to walk there. You have your orders. At the start of your unit activation, choose an Allied Galactic Empire secondary or Allied Stormtrooper, and it can dash. So he doesn't get a dash for himself, but he does get a global dash for pretty much anybody you want. It's fine, it's good, it's a thing, it does what it does. I will have results for a force. Choose an Allied Stormtrooper support within 4. The chosen character may dash, then it can get hunker, remove a condition, or make a 5-dice attack. Nice. I feel like if you want to make a Stormtrooper list, you take Krennic and not Veers, and I don't think there's a world in which you. It would be funny to try and make Krennic Veers work, but I don't think you can make Krennic Veers work. I don't think that's the thing. Prepare for a surface attack. At the end of setup, before shuffling your order deck, choose an allied Stormtrooper unit, place the Stormtrooper in reserve, and then each character in the chosen unit can dash. And when an allied Stormtrooper unit card is in reserve, characters in that unit add a dice to their defense. It's great. It lets you effectively have an infiltrating unit, right? Because you can dash somebody up the board and have them maybe on a key objective. I'd need to triple check the timing at the end of setup, so this is after the objectives are known, right? Yeah, it's really good. It is really good. And then they can just stand there in reserve with an extra defense dice. Then we got his stances. Lay Siege is a decent tree. 5 damage on 3. The option for 2 shoves on 2. 7 dice at range 5 is pretty good. His expertise tables are bad. And then Let the Rabble Come is pretty bad. Like, it's pretty bad. Gets an extra dice in his combat, but also his combat expertise is bobbins. Yeah, I like that less. But you can do 4 damage on 2. It feels like no, the damage is front loaded, so you can do 4 damage on 2, whereas first one only do 3 damage on 2. It's like, so I'm planning for what will happen if I only get 2 successes through, which feels kind of bad. Veers would be okay if he had 8 squad points, right? Veers having 7 squad points is just not. He's just not quite there, man. It's like he's got things. Prepare for a surface attack, I think, is really good, but it's one ability at the start of the game that happens once. We Are the Storm requires your opponent to kind of set up for it to be really useful. You have your orders is pretty good. I will have results is okay. Yeah, I don't quite see it. when you've got Krennic right there who mitigates this problem totally by having 9 squad points, right? And has a similar, you deploy the garrison is pretty similar to I will have results, right? Iden Verso. So the video game that Iden Verso is from went on sale on Steam recently for like £3.50. So I bought it just to play the campaign to learn who Iden Verso is. I haven't got very far in it, right? I've just done the first little like tutorial mission thing. The reason I was inspired to do that is because Iden Verso is really cool. Like on her card, she seems really cool. The things that she does seem like she's really cool. So we'll see. Her identity, the Empire sends its regards. When an allied Galactic Empire character wounds an enemy unit with an attack, after the effect resolves, the allied character may choose another enemy unit within 4. The chosen unit gets disarm or strain, and then the allied character may heal or heal and dash. So what I like about this is it's just a continuous thing that's going to constantly affect the game state. Oh, I've wounded something. I get heal and a dash. I get heal and a dash. I get heal and a dash. And also I get to throw out a disarm and a strain. Like it's really, really, it's a hard thing to plan around, right? And really leverage. But it's just sitting there like this miasma over the whole game where you're like, oh, I wounded you. And also now I do all this other stuff. Pretty good. She's got a tactic. Today, the rebellion dies. At the start of your activation, each other Galactic Empire scout character within 4 that's not engaged with dash, then you can dash. So, the only Empire scouts are found in her box. Now, it is a double support box. So, at most, you're moving the 4 units on her half. And I think if you take Iden, you always take her with her squad. I don't think it's ever worth taking both scout supports because the range 4 bubble. I don't think you want to try and hitting multiple things, but just getting her, if you manage to draw her early on, and therefore her entire half of the table's just be going, cool, we're all going to dash forwards, that's really good. If she's really late on in the deck, then that's tragic, isn't it? And I would be like, don't tie yourself up trying to get that range 4 bubble to work and trying to keep everybody around and just let them go off and do their own thing. But like at the end of the day, worst case scenario, she has a free dash as a tactic, which isn't awful, take it. Covert operations, pay a force, you can do a dash, and then if you end your movement within 4 of an enemy character, you focus and you have sharpshooter 1. Really good. Really, really good. A dash and a focus. And bear in mind, it's you get your free dash at the start, and then you can move, and then you can do covert operations, right? And then you can be rolling, 10 dice if you're on full auto. Sure. ID 10 Seeker Droid, you pay a force, choose an enemy unit within 3, the unit removes all its hunkers, and it didn't have any hunkers, it's exposed. Wow, yeah, exposed for that's exposed now. That cost me a force. That's cool. That's really good. Right. So her stances are interesting. Full also has extra dice and better expertise, but only 4 damage on 3. Okay. And also it's worth saying that the 4th square on both sides doesn't have any damage on it, right? Okay. So whereas burst fire, you've kind of got this thing where it's like, oh, I've got less dice, but now I can do 5 damage on 3, 7 damage on 4, right? But like less tools to get down it. But then again, you've got your focus and your sharpshooter, so you're rolling 9 dice. I think you're basically living in burst fire. Yeah. Quite like Iden. I think she's powerful. She's mostly just like this independent thing, but then she can potentially, if she gets into the right place, she can move up her entire squad. And then her identity is just casting this pall over the entire game, which is really good. CT-9904, or otherwise known as Crosshair, when Crosshair was fanatically loyal to the Galactic Empire. His identity: genetically bred Deadeye. When a character in this unit wounds an enemy primary or enemy secondary unit with a ranged attack as part of a combat action, after the effect is resolved, refresh 2 force. And when a character in this unit makes a ranged attack before dice rolled, it can remove one or more conditions from the defending unit to add a hit for each removed condition. It's a good ability if you like the idea of a selfish sniper assassin kind of a character. Like, they've done that well. The idea here, I think, is his box mates are applying conditions or whatever else you can take. If you can apply those conditions and get those conditions on there and then he can capitalize on it, then that's fine. I tend not to like abilities where it's like this character has to wound and then you get to do a thing, because it's dicey, isn't it? You're still relying on getting that wound through, and I think it's very hard in this game to, if you have a character like this that can do a lot of damage, and I think this about a lot of characters in Shatterpoint, right? I think this about Sarge Ventress, I think this about General Grievous, I think this about a lot of characters who have some kind of, when I wound a thing, I get these benefits. You have a lot of things in Shatterpoint who can do a lot of damage, right? And so when you have an activation with CT-9904 or any of these other assassin type characters, it's like, well, do I go for this thing over here that's on full health in the hopes that I roll the average or slightly above average result that I feel like I deserve, and therefore I can do a huge pile of damage and kill a character from full to dead and get my force or whatever else I'm getting, right? Or do I pick on a character who is on 1 or 2 wounds and kill it and waste a lot of my potential, but guarantee that I'm going to get whatever the advantages for me getting the wounding touch? Because I think quite often with these kinds of characters, it's very possible for your dice to just be slightly suboptimal and leave something alive on 1, 2, 3 wounds, and then you don't get your, even though you did the bulk of the work and you should be happy with that, you don't get the benefit for having wounded them. And then later in the game, when a shore trooper goes, I guess I blast that guy, oh look, he's dead, it's like, cool, but I don't get the benefit from CT-9904 for having shot them initially. But there you go. Just that weird one for me. I know not a lot of people like CT-9904, but more in general, people do like characters that have this kind of, when I wound something, stuff happens. Unless they're broken like Anakin and they will basically almost guaranteed to wound whatever they touch. I think on most characters it's kind of annoying. But there you go. That's just my little mini rant. Move to position for a force, pair force, you can dash or jump, and then an ally within 3 can also dash. Hey, a move for me and a move for the 4 of force, but range 3 is a little bit harsh. Be good if you draw him early doors where, you're deployed near people. Getting him later on, maybe there's nobody within 3, and then it's just a dash for a force, which isn't the best on a primary, but at least it's there, right? Reflector discs. So reflector discs is really cool, and it calls back to one of the more memorable things that Crosshair does in the Bad Batch TV show. You pay a force. When you do a ranged attack, before you choose your target, this unit may use this ability. Choose an allied character within 4 and in line of sight. During this attack, measure range and line of sight from the chosen ally. I'm not that sure how useful it is. Because when you visualize what's happening and you think about that really cool episode of the Bad Batch, you think about a bolt bouncing around corners to hit somebody that you couldn't otherwise see. But like, line of sight and terrain is not really that big of a deal, especially for shooting. Zimbag gets annoyed with me because I'm like, oh, this terrain's not really relevant, and he's like, oh, it's really relevant for pushing, and I'm like, well, maybe that's the thing, but it's definitely not explicitly relevant for shooting. Like often when you're doing shooting, there's like you might have the high ground terrain tower thing in the middle of the board somewhere that blocks some shots, but a lot of the time, unless somebody's right up against a building, you can shoot them. What this does let you do is extend your range, right? So think of it less like a cool mirror, which is bouncing a shot. I think of it more like, well, if I have a guy that's 4 away from me, and I shoot, and I can draw, and if it's 4 in front of me, right, I now have my range is now 4 plus 5 plus the base of that character, right? So it's much more about extending his range than it is about actually reflecting shots around corners. Once you work that out, right, it's pretty okay. It's pretty okay. Expendable distraction, we've seen that before. When a character in the unit makes ranged attacks, part of a combat action, if the defender is engaged with one or more allied characters in units that are not wounded, it may add 3 to its attack roll. If it does, choose one of those engaged allied units to suffer 2 damage. Yeah, I'll give 2 damage to a friend in order to get 3 attack dice. That's fine. It lets you get to 11 dice, which is really good. And then you've got stances. So bad play seems really bad, unless what you really need to do is shove somebody and you want to bring a shove down to 2 rather than have it on 3. Right? But then, target eliminated is, I think, where you want to be. You're rolling 8 dice, you got 5 damage on 3, 10 damage on 5, loads of bits and pieces. I like CT9904. I don't think he is a bad primary. The reason people don't like him is because of what's on the front of his card. He only brings 2 force, which is annoying, and he's stuck to the Rise of the Empire era. So a lot of the stuff for the Galactic Empire is from the Age of Rebellion, and so it's tricky. It's tricky to build a decent force with him in at the moment, but he's one of those characters, you know, that could just get a new lease of life. And I don't know what it would be, but if they just released some more stuff that was compatible with his era, then maybe he might find a place. But as it is right now, he's exceptionally hard to make work, and he feels like a really good 5-cost secondary in a primary slot, right? Because he just doesn't really do anything for the rest of your team whatsoever. You know? No. But Lando, very briefly. So, what Lando before. Lando is a character that I really want to be able to use. I'd be using him in Rebels, but Lando is a character that really intrigues me. Let's go with his identity first, which I haven't even edited this slide. Look, I still talk about him being a rebel rundown, but just to let you know how this works, okay? At the end of setup, you choose one of the following. So for the purposes of this video, we'll say he's Galactic Empire. And then additionally, each time you reveal an order card, you may choose an allied scoundrel. If you do, the chosen unit gets another tag this unit has until the end of turn. So what this lets you do is it lets you bring, you know, if you want to use a bounty hunter or someone else who's a scoundrel, and it lets you bring them into Galactic Empire, maybe to benefit from Darth Vader ones like extra dice, you know. So that's I don't know whether it's a failure of my imagination. I can see more. I can see more potential for Lando bringing scoundrels into Rebels at the moment, and I can see for him bringing scoundrels into Empire. But the option is certainly there. Yeah. Yeah. How are you doing your old pirate is his tactic. So at the start of the news activation, choose a non-wounded scoundrel within 4. If an allied unit was chosen, you can dash. Then you can remove all the conditions from this unit and give them to your chosen unit. So in Empire, you got to remember, like, Moff Gideon is a scoundrel. So I guess Lando Moff could be the beginnings of a list somehow. I don't think I'd play it. You could do it that way, and then you could bring in. You could run him with, some powerful scoundrels like Han and Chewie in it for the money, or just Chewie, the secondary Chewie, or there's plenty of interesting scoundrels, especially like rebel scoundrels that you might want to bring in and make Empire, so they could benefit from Moff Gideon's like melee boost. But I don't think there's enough there, right? One other thing you can do with Lando is you can, of course, hand your, if you have conditions, and you will have conditions, is you can hand the conditions off to an enemy scoundrel if there's one within 4, which is pretty cool. Hedge bets. So this is interesting. Before you refresh your order deck, choose a unit for each readied force in your force pool. Each chosen unit removes a condition from itself. Each chosen enemy unit gains a condition of your choice. Yeah. I mean, what's nice about this as well is if you've given yourself conditions, you can turn them into worse conditions for your opponent, right? You can turn your disarmed into exposes, strains, and pins, for sure. And then we got Sabak Shift. So this is the reason to bring Lando. No, there are 2 reasons to bring Lando. One is because you want to do fun stuff with list building and merge scoundrels into Empire, right? And one is Sabak Shift. So once per turn, when you reveal your order card, you can gain a condition if you don't have, which is, again, you're going to have those conditions to pass off with your tactic. And then you can refresh 2 force, and then you shuffle yourself back into the order deck, and then you reveal the next card in your order deck. If a unit order card is revealed, it can't be put into reserve. So Lando does this really interesting thing. It's fascinating, where you take Lando. Hopefully what you do is you draw him when you need him to regen 2 force, and then you shuffle him away, and you never play Lando, right? Your last activation of the thing is probably going to be Lando, okay, and that's fine. And if your last activation is Lando, you can always, if he's your last card, that means that you can pull him, refresh 2 force, shuffle him in with nothing, and then pull him again, and then finally have to activate him, and then you have 2 force to get some stuff from hedge bets, right? Which is useful there. So the problem with Lando, right, consummate gambler that he is if you draw Lando, refresh 2 force, shuffle Lando back in, and then you shuffle him back onto the top, and then you draw him. You have to then go with Lando, and he's not that useful on his actual activation, right? If you look at his abilities, 3 of the 4 things on his card, no, 2 of the 4 things on his card aren't happening on his activation. No, 3 of the 4 things on his card aren't happening on his activation, right? They're happening other times. It's only his how you doing, your old pirate, that is there on his activation. So he's really interesting. And the other problem with Lando, of course, is if you draw him as your first card Lando, that's really annoying because you haven't spent any force yet. It's like, oh, I guess I back shift him into my deck and pointlessly waste the thing. And then you hope not to draw him again. It's kind of annoying, but it's there. If nightmare scenario, your first pull is Lando, then you shuffle him in, and then your second pull is Lando again. You're like, oh, chuckle nuts. But I want to try Lando. I want to find out how reliable that. Like, I know this is an Empire video, but I want to try Andor Lando because that list brings 4 force. So I just want to know if it's playable and what it feels like. to have only 4 force, but then potentially Lando pops up and just gives you force forever, as long as you don't mess it up and you're lucky, right? Which is potentially a thing. Yeah. And then stances. So when you're finally forced to activate with Lando, how's that going to look? Well, first you're going to do how you do in your old pirate. You're going to choose a scoundrel within 4, and he's going to do a dash. And then if you have conditions, you pass the conditions onto that scoundrel. So hopefully you don't have any conditions, right? That's the first thing, and then you can just give someone a dash, which is cool. Or if you have horrible conditions, maybe you have an enemy scoundrel within 4, in which case it's all good. Or maybe you've taken Bosk, and then Bosk can because you basically never give Lando strain, and then you can just go, okay, Bosk here, hold these, because then they'll disappear on Bosk's turn. Right. Right. But it is also yeah. You don't have to put your condition. If you'd rather that Lando held the conditions, like it's May and May, so you can dash a scoundrel, right? And then if you're like, actually, I'd rather keep my conditions and not have a disarmed Cassian Andor over there, for example, you can just go, well, he's getting a dash, and I'm just going to have my conditions, right? So there's that. And then your actual turn. Okay. Pure Sabacc. Pure Sabacc is pretty cool because you do have shoves on 1 and 2. So, right, that's gonna be a thing. You've got a range 4 attack, rolling 8 dice. You get 1 and 2 down your tree, shove someone off something, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah, fine. I think that's like his most useful activation. In going with his theme as a gambler, if you roll 5 expertise, so if you roll all your dice expertise, you just get 4 crits, which is pretty funny. And then you can go, cool, I have 4 crits. I guess I'll do 4 down my tree, which is potentially like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage to you. Right? And if I get an extra success through somewhere, it's 8 damage and a reposition. So again, that gambling mechanic, will I roll little, will I roll big? He's quite fun. Do you like that kind of luck-based thing? Unlike all the luck-based things in this game, it really is win big or lose big. It's really interesting. He doesn't want to punch things. He's rolling 5 dice. He's getting 1 hit for 1 and 2. It's very funny because Shatterpoint players use the verb to punch to mean to make a melee attack, and often the character that is punching has like a double-ended lightsaber. Observe that Lando's melee attack is named Haymaker, and so he's literally just going, oh, Darth Vader, get out of my face, which isn't the best. Idiot's Array is, I feel like it's less good. It is easier to get 5 damage because you get 5 damage on 3 rather than 4 damage on 3, but you haven't got the option of trying to get 2 shoves. Your melee expertise is better. Sorry, your ranged expertise is better, but not by much. Your melee expertise is worse, but your melee expertise is better, worse. I don't know. Worse probably, right? Like the theme is they're more consistent at the bottom end, but then they don't have the ridiculous "I got lucky and big things happen" of Pure Sabacc. So your defensive expertise, though, is much better, right? So one expertise on defense, and you're getting a crit into a miss and a heal, right? And if you roll 3, you're getting 2 crits to misses and a heal. So I think you're definitely going to deploy on Idiot's Array, because you definitely want to have the extra defense dice and the really quite good defensive expertise. And then once you want to try and do something, you're going to flip to pure Sabak. And then hopefully you don't have to do something until much later in the game. He does only have 2 force, but as discussed, he is a force engine, and he doesn't actually use any force. He can't use any force on his own turn. Man, I just had a really fun ramble about Lando, but like I don't actually rate him in Empire at all. If you've got a fun list that involves Lando choosing, I've got my own problems. And you actually won a game with it. I'd love to see it down below. Right. Yeah. So here's my ranking of all of the primaries. The first 5, I think are all the ones that excite me. So Grand Inquisitor, Vader 1, Iden Versio, Director Krennic, and Moff Gideon. And I feel like if you wanted to talk tier list, I would maybe, do I think Grand Inquisitor is S tier? Maybe I think they're all A tier. Because I don't think, for example, that Moff Gideon is worse than Krennic and that Krennic is worse than Iden Versio. I definitely think that they're all kind of on the same line. I do think Grand Inquisitor is probably a little better, and I do probably think that Vader 1 is probably a little better. So like Grand Inquisitor is S, mate. Well, I don't think you need to nerf though. Grand Inquisitor is A++, Vader is A+, and Iden and Krennic and Moff are A, which is, I realise, a really annoying way of doing a tier list. Then we got the 2 things that I consider to be B tier, right? Which are Vader 2 and Thrawn. There's nothing wrong with Vader 2. Vader 2 would be like at the top. You know, he would be where Vader 1 is if Vader 1 didn't exist, because he's still really good. But I just think that Vader 1 is better. And I don't think there's a list that you can show me where you've got Vader 2 where I'm not going to say, well, that's nice. You could probably improve it to my taste just by swapping your Vader 2 for Vader 1. But I do realise that is a hot take. Like, I do realise that is not something that most people agree with, and that a lot of people really like Vader 2. So, yeah. Thrawn, a lot of people are really talking up Thrawn at the moment as being really good. I think I just don't quite. He doesn't excite me. I don't read his stuff and go, yeah, I can't wait to build a list with Thrawn in. I think, like, if you love Rebels or the Timothy Zahn novels or Ahsoka, and you're like, yeah, Thrawn is where it's at, Thrawn's cool, absolutely, you can make a really good list with Thrawn, combined with one of those other primaries that are above him. And he will do stuff, and he will feel cool and good and useful. Like, I don't really think Thrawn is bad. He just doesn't. He doesn't excite me based on his rules to go out and build a list. And then Veers and Evil Crosshair are just bad. I don't think there's a single list that you could put General Veers in where I don't think you'd be better off putting Director Krennic in the same list. Because they're both making the same kind of thing where it's Stormtroopers doing Stormtrooper stuff, but Krennic just does more besides and brings more squad points and lets you take cool stuff. Veers is like, oh yeah, I want to be a minion guy, but also I bring fewer squad points to bring the good Stormtroopers and the good Stormtrooper secondaries, and it's like, why Veers? I think Veers could be 9 squad points, and 2 force, sure, and then he'd be good. At least 8, right? Like, I don't know. And CT, like I said, I like him. I like his package, but he doesn't do a lot for you, and he doesn't do a lot for his friends, which can be fine. I personally have a bias against like refresh force when you kill somebody abilities, and he's in a really random era. Lando is at the bottom because of a failure of my imagination. I can't think of a good Lando Empire list. I love the idea of Lando. I've never been that impressed by him when I've played into him. Lando's really cool. Like, I feel like if you are the kind of person that likes to tinker and build lists and go off the beaten path, Lando has the tools to do that for you. And what you really want to do is you want to have a situation where you're managing to leverage both the fact that you can bring in scoundrels, and he ought to be better in Empire than Rebels because there's more. Like in Rebels, he's pretty well limited to bringing in grey bordered, like non-aligned scoundrels because there aren't that many Empire scoundrels. Whereas in Empire, he can bring in, Andor. Well, you probably don't want to bring in a primary and make him Empire, but you could. You could be like, yeah, here's Cassian Andor, and here's Lando, and then here's a huge like Death Troopers and Shore Troopers and a bunch of, and they're all Empire, right? And then that could be a thing. I guess. Do you find that kind of list compelling from a theme perspective? I'm not sure. Let's get on to the secondaries, and we're going to start with our third Darth Vader. Now, I have a real lore problem with Darth Vader Fallen Master, in that I'm not really sure from a lore point of view, from a snapshot point of view, what the difference is supposed to be between this Darth Vader Fallen Master and Darth Vader Jedi Hunter. I think they are Darth Vader with about the same fighting style and about the same time period and about the same way of acting, right? That's a lore concern. Leaving that aside for a minute, you'll also want to notice that this Darth Vader, being a secondary, only has 9 health and doesn't bring any of his own force and does cost 5. So all those things. He has a tactic. Anakin Skywalker was weak. At the start of your activation, if you're not strained, refresh force. After the effect is resolved, the unit removes a damage and a condition, and it can dash. This is just really good. Force refresh, a heal, and a dash. Right. Amazing. Amazing tactic. Wonderful. Then you will die braver than most. Costs 2 force. He does bring a force refresh, though. Choose a character in this unit and an enemy character within 3 of that character. Pull the chosen enemy character 2 towards the chosen ally, and the chosen enemy then gains an expose. So it's expensive. It is an expose and diceless displacement, so it's worth it. But thinking of it as diceless displacement is slightly problematic because it is a pull rather than a push. And you don't have access to a jump. So it's challenging sometimes to use a pull to make a situation where they're not on the point and you are. But then again, maybe the point of it is not, yes, it is diceless displacement. What it really is a look, I'm not quite in range to do a melee swing, so I'll do this. Now you're exposed and in melee, and now I'll murder you. Right. But it's going to be very challenging to get him to be on the point and his opponent off, but it will pull someone off point and let you blend them, which is good enough. The power within will soon serve the Emperor. So you can mitigate the problem that I just explained for the low cost of another force. At the end of the activation, you use the ability, it gains a strain, and then a character in this unit and an active objective within 3, the chosen character contests the chosen objective until the end of the turn. So if you pull somebody off and then you don't manage to kill them, but they're off the objective and you're also off the objective, you can spend a force to make you be on the objective and them not be on the objective, even though they are, even though they're nearer the objective than you, which is cute. It's basically an insurance policy for if he doesn't, if you really need to capture the objective, right? But it's just the fact that it's costing him 3 force to pull that trick off, which. More machine now than man. You gain protection, steadfast, and impact. Very nice. Very nice. So I don't always rate impact when you don't have a way to focus for free, which is fair. But protection and steadfast are amazing. Like, you get this guy on an objective, you're like, cool, I'm protected, I'm steadfast, and I've got a big stick. What are you going to do? His stance, so he has no range attack option, right? He's rolling 7 dice, 2 shoves on 2, 5 damage on 3, 8 damage on full tree. Really good. Expertise tables are, I mean, they're good, right? There is a slight misprint. Obviously, unrelenting is his defensive table. Yeah, obviously. And then lightsaber. Yeah, a block to a miss and a hit is. I like to see 2 crits on 2 on a character that's like a primary or a 5-cost secondary, but they're okay. Look, he brings a lot of tools, and he's really cool to use, and he's really fun, and he's very interesting. He is named Darth Vader, and if you're playing in a showdown format, right, I can totally see a list where you're like, cool, I'm going to have Director Krennic, I'm going to have Moff Gideon, and I'm going to have Darth Vader Fallen Master in that one list. And the problem is with that setup, and that's fine for showdown. If you're playing Premier, it's like, right, now I'm making a second list with what I've got left, which, or I mean, I suppose I could have said Krennic, Grand Inquisitor, and Fallen Master. Maybe that makes more sense. Although I don't like that list because Krennic's got no stormtroopers to bother around, but it is what it is. Third sister, Reva. So, force jump. Spend a force, get a jump. Great. You love to see it. Call the hunt. Choose an allied Inquisitorius supporting character. The chosen character may dash, make a 5 dice attack. So throwing out a free 5 dice to the to another Inquisitorius support. It's amazing. It's really good. It's splendid. The only issue with it, I suppose, is it means that she is useful precisely in the scenario where you're taking all the Inquisitors, right? I guess, because you want to have Inquisitor support to boss out, but it's really good. She has deflect. I'm going to read deflect again. It's fine. It's not the best thing in the game, but it's there and it's fine. And then she has your fear betrays you. When this character in this unit makes an attack during the modified astral step, the unit uses ability. The attacking character may re-roll a number of dice in the attack roll up to the number of active objectives controlled by the opposing players. Your opponent is generally going to control an objective at least, so it's a free re-roll. Quite likely they'll have 2 objectives, so it'll be 2 free re-rolls. If they don't have any objective, then you're winning anyway, so you can't really complain. Really like Third Sister because all her stuff is good and it's free. At least before she's wounded, right? Let's look at the stance cards. So no ranged attack, but which is funny because the amount of times people throw these double-ended lightsabers. But throwing 7 dice, 4 damage on 3. With a 5th damage, you roll a single expertise. You probably will. It's really good. 2 shoves on 3. Yeah, on that bottom path. Or an exposed on 2. It's a good tree. It's a reasonable expertise table, right? I'd love it if it was 1 and then 2 to 3 and then 4 plus, but sure, yeah. I think Third Sister's great. Now, like I say, if you are running, if you're going like, yeah, give me all the Inquisitors, then obviously Third Sister's really good. She's not someone that you just want to put into a list randomly by herself, I don't think, right? Because a big part of her value is in that call hunt ability. Agent Callus, Inside Man. All leads must be pursued. At the start of the user's activation, you must dash towards an enemy character. You probably have an enemy character somewhere in front of you where you want to go, so it's basically just a free dash, that's fine. Prepared for any encounter, so for a force, you can make a focus, and then you have Sharpshooter 2 and Impact 2. So for a force, you get plus 3 dice to your melee and range, really good. Yeah, so you're rolling 9 dice. Really good. Imperial Intelligence for a force. When an allied character is attacking or defending, the unit may use this ability in the modified dice roll step. The allied character may re-roll 1 dice for each tag it shares with this unit. So, okay. I'm going to find a second occasion to ramble about rebels in my Imperium rundown, but bear with me. I'll come back to that in a minute. So, on the face of it, you're spending a force, and you're getting at least 1, possibly 2, and maybe 3 re-rolls, right? Here's the issue. We'll read on certain loyalties. So he either has the loyal servant package of tags, which is Empire, Spy, and Trooper, or the double agent packet of tags, which is Rebel Alliance, Scoundrel, and Spectre. Here's the problem with Agent Callus in an Empire list. Galactic Empire, fine, and Rebel Alliance are the same. They're your kind of overall tags. Spy, there are 2 Empire units with the Spy tag. There is Agent Callus inside Man, and there are the ISB agents that come in his box, and that is it. Whereas, if you take the equivalent tag, I would say from the Rebel list, Spectres is like a full-on sub-faction with 2 boxes of Spectres, right? Then you've got the Trooper tag. So the Trooper tag is pretty widespread, right? There are nearly every support you're going to take is a Trooper, right? ISB agents are Empire Spy Troopers and can get 3 rolls from Callus for sure. But then if you contrast that with Rebels, they get the Scoundrel tag, and there's primaries and secondaries and supports with Scoundrel, and being able to get rerolls, like loads of rerolls on your primaries and secondaries, is really good. I guess what I'm saying here is, it's very common in Rebels, you can build a list where one way or the other, so everybody in this list, or most people in this list, are Rebel Scoundrels or Rebel Spectres, right? So you can make it in Rebels so that everybody can spend a force to get 2 rerolls. In Empire, right, at best, you're getting, your ISB agents are getting 3 rerolls, right? Your other support is getting 2 rerolls, and your other primary and your other secondary are getting 1 reroll. So he's just less good as in Empire. But that said, if they were to bring out another, I don't know what this would be off the top of my head, like lore-wise, if they were to bring out another box of Empire Spies, then Callus's stock would go up, right? So he's a really powerful piece in other ways. Like we looked at his Prefer Any Encounter, we looked at his All Legions Be Pursued, but it's just worth saying that his Imperial Intelligence is actually worse when he's part of the Imperium at the moment. I think he has an amazing stance card, right? So if you want to do damage, you can do 5 damage and an expose on 3, or you can go all the way up to 8 damage, right? Bear in mind, he is rolling 9 dice, right? He's rolling 9 dice. I think he's got a pretty decent chance of getting where he needs to go, okay? Now, it's true, his expertise is bad, right? He's got 1 crit on 1 crit. If you roll 1 expertise, you're laughing because it's fantastic. But every expertise you get over 1 feels kind of sad, right? If you're in melee, it's a bit different. You desperately want to get to that 3 expertise breakpoint. Now, having the extra shove on his melee expertise is interesting. Having the extra damage on his shooting expertise is interesting. Okay. If you don't want to do loads of damage, you go down his shoves tree, and you can get 2 shoves pretty easily. I really like Agent Callus's stance card in a lot of ways. Also, his ranged attack, his range is range 5 as well, which is great. But I think in Empire, there's usually a better choice, in my humble opinion. Gideon Hask. So Gideon Hask is part of Inferno Squad, also in the video game Battlefront 2. Covert operations. So you spend a force. Each character in this unit may dash. If one or more characters ends this movement within 4 of an enemy character, you make a focus action and you have Sharpshooter 1. That old chestnut. Still like it. Long live the Empire, like what Moff Gideon has, except you're a secondary. You know, I like it when Moff Gideon does it. I also like it when Ask does it. Yeah. Defiance will be the death of you. Passive. When allied Galactic Empire support makes an attack as part of combat action, if target is in 5 of the character in this unit, the attacking character may change a miss to a hit. Yeah, man, it's just he jobs around near hit a support unit, and if he is there, they get an extra hit. Great, good, fine. He used to be busted because this used to be everybody and not just sports, but now it's sports. It's still just good, right? And then may we live up to our name, so he has a revenge trigger that's free. And will always be free. When he's wounded, after the event is resolved, you can immediately dash and make a 5 dice attack against the person that just wounded you, who may well be in melee with you. Like, so why not? Why not? You might not need the dash, but the dash lets you do 2 things. You can either clear a pin, right? Or if you were just melee, you can use the dash to get out of melee because you'd rather shoot them. Brilliant. And then you've got 7 dice at range, 6 dice in melee, and he has one of those really nice straightforward trees where he has, much like we had with Callus, actually very similar to Callus, isn't he? Right, a bit better in terms of his tree, where he has a damage path that can do really good damage, or if you need it, he has a push path that can do 2 pushes on 2. Really like Hask, rate him really highly, I think he's pretty good. Yeah. Death Trooper Specialist costs 5 points, which does make him hard to find a home for. We'll start with that. Oppression. At the start of this unit's activation, each character in this unit may dash. Then choose an enemy unit within 3, and the chosen unit gets a strain or a pin. Look, it's a free dash is a free dash, right? And then if you have someone within 3, getting to hand out a strain or a pin to them is pretty good. Now he doesn't have strain or pin. Well, he has a strain quite late on his push strand of his tree. He doesn't have a strain or a pin early to make it convert it into bonus damage. But it's fine. It's free. It's cool. It's nice. Yeah. No problem. And then we've got Imperial Brutality. So Imperial Brutality costs a force. Choose this unit or an allied Galactic Empire supporting unit. One character in the chosen unit may dash. Then, if one or more characters in that unit are engaged, choose one of the enemy characters engaged with that unit. The chosen unit gets exposed, the ally gets exposed, and the enemy gets exposed. So, okay. Of course, a dash and then expose is great. Yeah. And it costs a force, and you do have to expose your own model. Now, some things like stormtroopers and snowtroopers have early heals in their own attack tree to get rid of this, which is pretty cool. But those aren't generally supports that you're often going to take. It's okay. It's obviously I don't like exposing your own stuff, but if you can dash and expose something, and then you're yourself going to do something on your activation into that to leverage that exposed, that's pretty good. Unrelenting Assault for a force. After you make an attack as part of a combat action. After you make an attack as a combat action, you can pay a force effectively, and then you can make a 5 dice attack targeting a different enemy unit. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Sorry, I skimmed over that you use Imperial Brutality on yourself, which I think in the main is what you do. Right? Like, you use it on yourself because then yes, you're exposed, but you don't care about that until next turn, and you then immediately get to leverage the fact you've exposed somebody, and that makes it much better. I think trying to use it on another thing is a bit more challenging. And then elite conditioning, protection and immunity. Oh, hang on. Read the whole card, Phil. You got immunity to expose. So actually, be great if when I laid up the PowerPoint, I'd noticed that he could use Imperial Brutality on himself, hadn't I? Right. So actually, it's fantastic. Because actually, most of the text on there is irrelevant. You can pay a force to dash and then expose somebody and then punch them. Yes. Yes. That's really good. And then spend another force to punch somebody else you want to do. Fantastic. And then let's look at your tree. Again, we got the nice thing we want to see, which is a nice damage route, 5 damage and another expose to re-expose them, and a shubs route. You can go down the shubs route to find some heals if you want, but the main thing you're going to do is damage, I think. His expertise table again is fine for a support, but I'd just like to see a little bit more on a 5-cost support, I guess. Yeah, 7 dice, 5, and a range 5 gun. Although quite often he's going to want to be in melee because he wants to get that exposure for Imperial Brutality, I guess. Really good, better than I thought because I hadn't read the card properly originally. Death Trooper Escort. Only costs 4, which is good. Imperial Efficiency. At the start of the activation, you choose an Allied Galactic Empire support. Each character in the unit may dash, and if the chosen unit happens to have been damaged, it can instead double repo. Flipping amazing. Like, hey, guys over there that's taken 1 incidental damage from one of the 57 Empire things that put 1 damage on you. You can both reposition now on my turn. So that point over there that I'm not even looking at, that's the Empires now, and I'm going to go and do other things over here. And it didn't cost me any force. Hell yes. Tactical advance, you pay a force. You get to dash and focus. Really good. By the way, as Sharpshooter 1, it's down the bottom, but I'm mentioning it now because obviously free focus action. Sharpshooter 1. So he's got a ranged dice of 9, which if he pays the force, which is really good. Disciplined, you pay a force. If you're not wounded, you can then repo towards an objective. And if you don't manage to get into an engagement with anybody, you can have a hunker as well. I'll take a repo for a force. Sure, yeah, really good, isn't he? And then his stance card, he's only got 4 damage on 3. But, you know, we'll take it. 6 damage on 4, though, right? and he has that expose on 3 as well, which is kind of nice. On his shove path, you love to see the shoves on 1 and 2. They're not there. They're on 1 and 3, but it's fine. It's not a bad tree. And you're likely going to throw 9 dice. His expertise tables, again, are a bit kind of... It's fine for a 4-pointer, though. Yeah. I really like DTE. He's yes. He just... The fact that he can reposition 3 things on his turn, including himself, right? He's really mobile. Makes team really mobile. He's really good. And he's not bad at shooting and doing stuff as well. Oh my gosh. This is possibly the worst card in Shatterpoint. The Snow Trooper Lieutenant is 4 points, so he costs the just for perspective, he costs the same number of points as Death Trooper Escort. Just want to hold that in your mind all the time while we're reading this. He too has a tactic. You can choose a Galactic Empire supporting unit. You can remove a condition, and then one of its 2 models can dash. Remove a condition could be really good. To be fair, if they're pinned or exposed, then getting rid of that condition is going to help them, right? Then he's got Dogged Assault as a reaction when another allied Stormtrooper unit within 4 makes a combat action. You can... The attacking unit can immediately make a take cover action. That is a lot of words for when a Stormtrooper attacks within 4. When it's done, it can take cover for free. And it's a reaction. So once you're wounded, you're going to be invited to pay a force for that, which you're never going to do. Commanding Presence. It's free. When an allied Galactic Empire trooper within 3 would gain a condition, it can instead take a damage. Okay. And then only Imperial Stormtroopers are so precise that you can have Sharpshooter 1 but you've got no way of getting focus for free. So Sharpshooter 1 is fine. Like, if this guy costs 3, you might think about him. But, like, let's look at his stance card. 6 and 5 dice. His expertise tables are not amazing. I guess his ranged expertise is fine for a 4 cost. 3 damage on 3, a single shove on 2. Like, this is the worst card in Shatterpoint. I don't know why anybody would just really like Snowtroopers. It doesn't help as well that he's packaged with the worst primary in Galactic Empire, General Viz, right? Stormtrooper Sergeant, bear in mind, so we're going to go through Stormtrooper Sergeant. Bear in mind, Stormtrooper Sergeant costs 3, and Snowtrooper Lieutenant costs 4. Again, another comparison to hold in your head. Stormtrooper Sergeant has a tactic, inexorable advance. At the start of unit's activation, you choose a Galactic Empire support, and each character in the chosen unit may full move. Then, if it full moves, it takes a damage. Like, look, this is good. If you, I mean, it's not as good as Death Trooper Escort, right? But he's a 3 cost. Some people say you should take, like, later on we're going to see he likes to buff Stormtroopers. You can argue that he's worth taking even in a list with no other Stormtroopers to use his coordinated defensive ability, because this ability is just so good. I don't like getting a free full move is good. Having to put damage on somebody is slightly annoying. Maybe he is. Maybe he is. Imperial Firepower costs a force. Choose an enemy character within 4, it gains a pin or a disarm. There's an incredibly narrow world where I'm paying a force to put a pin on somebody, I suppose. It's not often, though. It involves either I'm at the bottom of my deck and look at all this force I have for some reason because, Grand Inquisitor's out here refreshing my force all day long. But I don't think or maybe because I can see, like, if I pin him, it's going to be really clutch for this other thing that my opponent's clearly trying to do. But very rare, I think. Then coordinated defensive is reaction. When a character in this unit or another allied Stormtrooper character makes an attack as part of a combat action, before dice are rolled, you can use this ability, add 1 dice to the attack roll for each allied Stormtrooper on the attacking unit, which is within 5 and line of sight of the target. This is really nice. It's not as nice if you build into it and you've got loads of Stormtroopers on field, right? Then I think this could be really good, right? Bearing in mind that 4 of your 6 units can be Stormtroopers, right? And if you make a Stormtrooper ball, you can add loads of dice to all your other Stormtroopers. I think that's quite fun. Should you make a Stormtrooper ball? I don't know. And then he's got Sharpshooter 1, but no way of getting free focus. So it's all right. It's nice to have. Stance card. He's got a pin on 1 expertise at range, which is interesting. Okay. Might be a reason that you want to spend the force for a pin for Imperial Firepower, because you want to get that second. You think you'll probably get a second pin, which will do another damage, and with the amount of wounds your target has, it's worthwhile. 3 damage on 3. Does have an expose on 2. He has a repo on 3. A heal and a dash on 2. What? Yeah, a heal on 1 and a dash on 2. He's not really here to kill. He's using his attack as means to do this other stuff, right? He's a fun support piece. He only costs 3. His inexorable advance is pretty good. His coordinate offensive can be really good if you build into it. He's pretty good. Firebrand. So this is from Evil Crosshairs box. Firebrand has a tactic called Marching Orders. At the start of this unit's activation, choose an allied empire support. The chosen character and 1 character in the unit may dash. Look, we've just read Stormtrooper Sergeant, and then before that we read Death Trooper Escort, so it's hard for me to get excited by somebody that's letting me dash half a support, right? Prescribed Fire, pay a force, choose an objective within 3, each character within 2 of the objective may dash, then each unit within 2 of the objective suffers 2 and removes all of its hunters. I don't like abilities like this, guys, you know, that we've seen a few of now, where we're like shoving people on or off an objective, then damaging the people that are on the objective, and then hoping that that works out for us somehow. I don't get it. Obscuring Flames. Choose an allied unit within 3. It can... Cool. And then, Can't Stand the Heat. While this unit is not wounded, when one or more characters in an enemy unit end a move action, engage with one or more characters in this unit, you can use this ability. The enemy unit gains strain and disarm. So this is pretty good. You can sit her on a point, and then if somebody's like a melee guy, like maybe they're a Jedi with no ranged attack, and they're like, "Oh, I'll just go and get that point," and it's like, "Cool, you're strained and disarmed. Are you still going to make that attack action?" And they're like, "Yeah, you know, cool. We take 3 damage and ignore your expertise." Like it's pretty fun. I like that bit that you can stick her on an objective, but is she worth it for all these other bits and pieces? Her stance card is weird because all the good stuff's at the back, and you need to kind of get through a bunch of dross to get to it. So, and it's unlikely that you will. 4 damage on 3 is okay. 1 shove on 3 is not really what you want. But then more shoves if you get to 4 and 5. And her expertise tables are fine for a 4 cost size. Hard to like Firebrand. And this is the problem with Crosshair. He has to take Firebrand pretty well because there's not that much in his era apart from his box. Boba Fett. Talked about Boba Fett before. Boba Fett can be Empire or Scoundrel. We're going to talk about him today as Empire. He has no outgoing synergy, but one of the nice things about Boba Fett is he doesn't mind whether he's shooting or punching. He's quite good at punching. And therefore, if you are looking for someone who can punch stuff with Vader or Moff, right, then he can fill a slot in that list. Let's look at what else he does. So he has a tactic. You're running out of options. At the start of this unit's activation, one character in this unit may jump or make a 5 dice attack, attacking a primary. Getting to a free 5 dice on a primary is pretty cool and unique. Or a jump, and you didn't have to pay a force for it. It's really good. Knee rockets. For a force, choose 2 enemy units within 3, and each chosen unit suffers a damage. So, a damage to 2 enemy units within 3 for a force is meh, right? But you have in your stance card a free ability on 4. So essentially, I'm saving knee rockets and hoping to get it for free. I would never use it before attacking. I might pay for it after I attack if I've left my opponent alive on 1. But essentially, I'm counting it. I'm trying to suggest that basically you think of that 4th box on your stance card as having 3 damage in it. Now, Whipcord Launcher, pay a force, give your enemy within 3 pinned and disarmed. And then notice that your second box on your tree, has the disarm symbol in. Right? Do you see what we're doing here? So we're basically saying, actually, you can do effectively 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage on 4. Right? And then we got Dead or Alive. When an enemy primary ends its activation, you can use this ability. One character in this unit may dash towards a character in an enemy primary unit. Notice it doesn't have to be the primary that ends its activation. You can use it to dash towards the other primary if that was preferable. And then his stance. So yeah, it's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. Effectively 6 damage on 3 if you've put out the disarm. And then 9 damage on 4 if you've got your whipcord launcher as well. You know, really good. Or if you need a shove, it's there for you on 3, I guess. So Boba Fett, really good, really powerful. Doesn't really have a lot of synergy with Empire, but does, I suppose, he likes to be punching people because his knee rockets and his whipcord launcher. I mean, they're range 3, not range 2, so he can do close range shooting. But I think he benefits quite a lot from being with Darth Vader or Moff Gideon in the list, right? So secondaries ranked. Death Trooper Escort for me is just the best character. Let's look at him again. Right, like getting to repo both halves of a support and then do all the other things he can do is insane. Really good. Hask is not far behind him, right? And then obviously, if you're running Inquisition, then Third Sister becomes the best, right? The top 3 there, 4 costs, are all really good. I think DTE and Hask could go into nearly any list and be really good. I think that Third Sister is good in, specifically an Inquisitorial list. And then we've got the bottom 2, I think, bottom 3. I think Boba Fett he's strong. He's better in Empire than anywhere else. But if I'm building a list and I've got a gap for a 4-cost secondary, I'm struggling to work out what the list would be where I wouldn't be feeling like I wanted to take one of the others. Maybe because he's particularly good at punching, sure. But then again, like Death Trooper Escort, he doesn't hate punching, right? Sure, he's better at ranged, I guess, vaguely. No, it's a wash. So Boba Fett's going to do more damage. I guess if you want someone who's a bruiser and not, or you want 2 4-cost punchers, DTE and Boba Fett, I can kind of see it. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe with Moff, sure. Callus, at the moment, I don't think you take Callus in Empire ever. If you get another box of Empire Spies, then there becomes a kind of list that's that new box plus Callus plus the ones we haven't looked at yet, the spy troopers. The name has gone from the ISB. Then a primary of your choice. Like I can see that being great, and then Callus stocks go way up in that particular combination. But at the moment, I don't rate Callus at all. But I rate him more than the Snowtrooper Lieutenant, who is basically a joke. If someone can explain to you what Snowtrooper Lieutenant's point is, then again, I'm open to being corrected in the comments. When we get to the 5 costs, I've written there that in a vacuum, Vader is better than Death Trooper Specialist. But now that I've realised how Death Trooper Specialist actually works, that he can use Imperial Brutality on himself, Vader's probably still better because he brings more points. But I'm even more happy to put DTS above Vader because Vader's principal issue is that you can't run a Vader primary. I actually think Death Trooper Specialist is really good. And then Stormtrooper Sergeant is your only 3 cost. He is pretty good. I think he's very good in list with other Stormtroopers. If you're not leveraging the Stormtrooper synergy and you don't have any other Stormtroopers in your list, because maybe you're running like, it'd be all the Inquisitors plus Vader 1 plus a 3-cost secondary Stormtrooper Sergeant. In that list, I prefer Bosk, the Bounty Hunter, but you might prefer Stormtrooper Sergeant for the extra move. I think the list's already pretty mobile, so your mileage may vary there. But I think, generally speaking, he's a very good 3-cost. Yeah. Right, let's get into the how long have I been recording for? Oh man, 2 hours and 15 minutes. looking forward to every time I make one of these videos. My friend Oro DMs me a meme based on the scene from Peep Show where Jeremy orders an inordinate amount of naan bread, and I'm gonna get sent that meme again. I can feel it in my bones. Um, but I'm gonna keep going because I'm enjoying myself. So, I mean, you're probably not. There's probably like 4 people still watching this, but I don't care. If I cared, I'd never make Shatterpoint content. Fifth brother. Force repulse. Oh my gosh, 2 force. You hate to see it, but look what you get for your 2 force. You get one of the best abilities in the game. Choose a character in this unit. Push each other character within 2 of the chosen character 2 away from it. I mean, other people have it, like Shakti has it, but like Shakti is a 5-cost, 5-cost secondary. Fifth Brother's a 4-cost support. Now, granted, look, I'll say it now, he's a 1-body support. And if you watch a Rebels video, I was like, oh, Chopper, get out of here. Zeb, get out of here. I don't like 1-body supports. Fifth Brother is he is the standard for saying, look, if you're going to give me the enormous penalty, and I do see it as an enormous penalty of being a 1-body support, I think this is kind of how good you have to make your character. I think he is good enough to get there. Let's read the rest of his card. So he's got Force Repulse, fantastic. He's got Force Jump, we know what that does, fantastic. Enfeeble Expose, let's read this. When a character in another allied Inquisitorius unit makes an attack as part of a combat action, before the dice are rolled, you can use this ability. If the targeted character is in 4 of a character in this unit, it gains Expose. Yeah, man. I mean, look, you won't always have people within 4. This is one of those ones that I think if you really try and tie yourself up making sure you get it all the time, you're going to actually cause yourself a problem, as I often say. But when it comes up, as long as you remember to check for it and go, oh, do I have my Enfeeble exposed? Oh, I do. Oh, awesome, you're exposed. And now there's a double-ended lightsaber in your stomach. So, great ability. A bit annoying once he's wounded. You got to pay a force for it, but that's the way of things. Like, there's one thing you can say about Fifth Brother: he really doesn't like being wounded because paying 3 for Force Repulse is not palatable. Paying 2 for Force Jump is not palatable, and paying 1 for Enfeeble is possibly not palatable, right? So Fifth Brother really doesn't like being wounded, for sure. But remember, you're generally taking him with Grand Inquisitor, who does just spit out Force now. You know? And then, hey, even when he's wounded, guess what he still has? It's Protection and Steadfast. Whenever he's on a point. Amazing, really good. And he breaks ties, Inquisitorial mandates. When determining control of an objective, that character is contesting its tie, you're controlling player to control the objective. Amazing, fantastic, amazing. Some people will take Fifth Brother in an Empire list with no other Inquisitors, pretty well just for this ability. It's like the people that take Ezra outside of Spectres just for this ability. I don't rate breaking ties as highly as these people do. Okay? But if it's an ability that's good enough that some people say it makes him worth taking outside of his special subtag, when you're taking him inside his special subtag, it's flipping amazing. Right? So he has an expose on 1 because you probably don't need the push. If you don't need the push because you've got Force Repulse, right? But if you don't have the Force, you can get a push on 1 instead. That's fine. By the way, if you don't have the Force, you've got a free activated ability on 4, so always attack before you Force Repulse. 4 damage on 3, and then a chance to get your Force Repulse for free, and then topping out at a respectable for a support 8 damage, counting them all from expertise. I think he's rather good, and like I say, people consider him even outside of Inquisitors, and I think in Inquisitors he's an absolute mentalist. Really good. Really good. Fourth Sister, that's right, there's another one. I don't think Fourth Sister's quite as good as Fifth Brother, but it's very close. It's very close. So Force Jump, cool. Force Pull, okay. So Force Pull, I always say, is trickier than Force Push. You have to pull someone towards you, so you pull them 2 towards you, right? But you have access to Force Jump, so assuming that you have the distance to Force Pull, you can Force Pull someone, and then you can Force Jump over their head, and then you're on the objective, and they're not, ha ha ha. So that's fine. It is an expensive thing to do that way, for sure, but it's fine. Of course, bear in mind as well that you have on your combat tree there at box number 4, you have a free activated ability. So quite often, I guess her turns are going to look like force pull, do a combat action, hope to get to 4 to get the force jump for free. If we don't get to 4, we pay a force for the force jump to take the point, right? Which is pretty cool. Yeah. Enfeeble pin. I mean, look, I like it less than enfeeble expose, but it's still rather good, handy. You're even less likely to want to purposefully blob people up to hand out the free pins, but nice to have when it happens. Inquisitorial mandate, just like Fifth Brother, and again, some people will take these just for those abilities. And then swift retreat. Whenever you move, you can instead reposition, so you can't be locked up in combat, which is relevant because she has a ranged attack. She's actually a ranged character. Who could know? In fairness, expertise table-wise, she's slightly better in combat. Because I don't know. Personally, I'd rather have a crit and a damage than a crit and a dash, but maybe you'd rather have the dash. Certainly, the dash is nice to have if you're making a ranged attack because you couldn't make it into melee, and you do have an extra dice at range, which is nice to have. So yeah, she can do either thing equally competently, really. Okay, 2 pushes on 3, which is quite good. 4 damage on 3, which is quite good. Free force ability as discussed. And 8 damage at ranged, potentially. 8 damage at ranged? No, I've misread. 8 damage at melee. Potentially 7 damage at ranged. Yeah. Still good though. Another one body support. I think he's possibly a hair worse than Fifth Brother, but I definitely think you take both of them if you're running Inquisitors. A lot of people are still in the habit of not, because Fourth Sister wasn't always great, and people don't like, 6 bodies. But I think it's worth doing it. It's worth doing it because I think they're that good. She's very mobile as well, which is nice. Now, Del Miko. What have I done? Can't read half my own notes here. Anyway, I'll make do. Trick shot. At the start of the activation, if no characters in the unit are engaged, choose an enemy unit in line of sight. The chosen unit suffers damage and removes all of its hunkers. Okay, we've seen this before on Republic Crosshair. It's situational, potentially very good, but often it's not going to be that good. But if you catch someone alive on 1, or if they have an ability like Rebel Pathfinders would hate to have all of their hunkers removed, right? So that's good. Or any of the myriad Republic things that like having hunkers on them to be able to do stuff as well, right? Covert operations, you pay a force, you can dash. If you end with someone within 4, you get free focus and sharp. We've seen this before on all the other Inferno Squad guys. It's fine, it's good. Deadeye, you have Sharpshooter 2. Notice this does Sharpshooter does stack, that's the rule. So if you covert operations, you have Sharpshooter 3 and Focus for free, which means you can be rolling an extra 4 dice, which is 10 dice. That's pretty good. Also, you ignore cover when you're shooting. Pretty good. And then Special Forces Sniper, you can shoot twice. So, you know how a support can usually shoot twice? Miko can shoot twice. He's really interesting. He's like a secondary jammed into a support slot, but he's a one-body support slot. Let's look at his stance card. 5 damage on 3. Bear in mind you can do that twice. Right. That is your max damage. If you have more successes, though, you can get 6 if you go down the other path. But you can reliably do 10 damage because you're reliably going to get 3 and then 3 again with your second attack. That's going to kill most things. His expertise is interesting. It's possibly not the best to not have any hits or crits on 1 to 2 and just have a dash instead. But your pile of dice might make up for that. Um, he's interesting and he's fun, and I think if you're a big fan of Battlefront 2, right? I don't think you're going to hate running Delmico, but he is less optimal than the other scout support that is an option in the Inferno Squad box, because he's one body in there too. And I don't think, because of the way Iden's like free dash for all the other scouts is range limited, I don't think you're going to want to take the Delmico and the other scouts in the same list and spread across both squads. I don't think there's any mileage in that. So I think Delmico is going to stay on the shelf. But like, if you love him because you love the plot of the game and the characters, I don't think you're gonna have really. I don't think he's awful. I just kind of like. I've been saying about like Darth Vader's and stuff. He's just in this place where there's no situation where you wouldn't take the other one. Speaking of the other one, here they come. So here's ISF. So it's again they have Galactic Empire and Scout. So that's why I've been talking about this. They have at the start of the activation, they can remove a damage and a condition. Hitting a damage is okay. Getting through with a condition is fantastic because pin and stray can ruin your whole day. They have covert operations. I'm sick of reading it. They have infiltration. So depending on who you talk to, infiltration is an absolute must in case you ever have to play Never Tell Me the Odds. Everybody's upset. I'll never tell me the odds. If you've never played it, like 2 out of the 3 draws for the first struggle is an asymmetric thing where one of the people will have one of the 2 points activated on their half will be a point you cannot deploy onto without infiltration or ponds, or I guess vias, right? It's not quite, yeah. So some people think they're mandatory. I think it depends what you've got. If you're like separatists with big base guys, then you can usually get onto the point. But yeah, they really help in that situation for sure. Obviously, infiltration can be a bit of a double-edged sword because it does mean maybe that someone can run up and punish you for being further forwards. Stance, they got 4 damage on 3, which is good. They got reasonable expertise. They got 6 dice, which is going to be 8 most of the time. Range 5. No pushes. Reposition on 4 feels like it's not wholly a dream when they're rolling 8 dice. Okay. Now these guys are in a particularly interesting place. They're not stormtroopers, so you can't use them in a lot of places where you'd want a stormtrooper, because lots of imperialists want inquisitors or stormtroopers, but they are scouts, and I think they, like I've said before on Delmico's slide, they compete with Delmico for that particular slot in that Iden squad list, and I think generally these win the contest because they are 2 bodies and they have that infiltration. But like I said, I don't think it's as cut and dry as a lot of people present it, and I don't think if you decide you want to run Delmico because you think Delmico is cool, I don't think that's like superbly wrong. The Dark Troopers. Dark Troopers are not Stormtroopers because they're robots. They've got jump boots, which is force jump with a different name. That's fine. They've got coordinated fire strain. We know what coordinated fire is. It's a nice ability. It's not exactly playmaking. It's quite interesting to go through and look for people who have strain early in their damage tree. And so you can, with coordinated fire strain, effectively be giving people an extra damage, like Beta 2 has an early strain. Immovable. They cannot be pushed or pulled by abilities. So you cannot dice displace them. That's pretty good. Unrelenting, they have protection and immunity. These are tanks. They are tanky guys. They only have 7 wounds, though. And they don't have the best defensive expertise in the game. They used to be really good. They used to effectively be an auto take because they used to have really good defensive expertise, and now they sort of don't. They are, however, really versatile. You can have 4 damage and a push on 3. Okay. You can have 2 pushes on 3. You can have a push, 3 damage, and a jump on 3, or you can have 4 damage and a jump on 3. So you can do a lot of different things with your assumed 3 successes that I like to do for when I'm doing my rundowns. And then their damage max is at 7. They're good. They're pretty good. They have this problem with them. They're not stormtroopers. They're not inquisitors. So there's a lot of lists that will pass them over. I think if you have a list that you're not wanting stormtroopers or inquisitors, because, for example, you're running a primary like Moff Gideon, whose box they come in, and then your second primary is like Vader, then you can definitely be looking at Dark Troopers. You might still prefer Death Troopers. We'll see. ISB agents. So they have Trooper and Spy, so they have that Callus synergy. I don't think that's really worth building around, but like if you're playing the Thrawn box as is, it makes it nicer, right? It gives the box something interesting to do, but I don't think it really grows into anything, right? Assault tactics. You pay a force. You may dash. And then you suffer a damage and get a focus. I don't love that you have to take a damage, a dash, and a focus for a force, it is one of those things that other things get to do without the damage, but they are a 3 cost. So maybe they have an ability that's generally only found on 4 costs. They get to do it on their 3 cost, and the downside then makes sense. I'll give you that. Imperial Detention is free when an enemy character that is engaged with one or more characters in this unit full moves or dashes. After the move is resolved, the moving character's unit suffers 2 damage if the moving character is no longer engaged with other characters in this unit. Basically, if people try and move away from you, they take 2 damage. I feel like this is a massive nothing burger. Yeah. Very narrow circumstances when someone's like, I really want to move away. Oh, you'll take 2 damage. Oh no, I'll die. I guess I can't move away. Like, it's going to come up, but it's not something you can really plan into or go and do. Yeah. And then they have Impact 1, which makes sense because they can get that free. Well, it's not free. They're taking a damage and spending a force, but it means that in melee they can have 8 dice, which is pretty good. They have 3 damage on 3. They have a push on 2. Okay, yeah. With the 8 dice they're rolling, they might do better. They might get to 4 and get their second push, which kind of feels like the point of them, I guess. But it's a bit dicey. I just roll crap dice, so I whenever I see like, oh, when you get to 4, you can do this. Like, yeah, okay, sure. I think they're fine. If you really want a 3 cost support, these are competing with snowtroopers that we'll see later on. Or you can try and do the Agent Callus stuff. I don't super rate them. They're perfectly fine for a 3 cost, though, Elite Squad Troopers. So these are the support in the awkward crosshair, evil crosshair box that is in the wrong era. Tactical advance. Pair force. Each character in the unit may dash. If any characters dash, gets focus. Yep, good. Supporting fire hunker and supporting fire heal, which I'll take them together. Essentially, this is supporting fire, heal, and then, if the heal isn't useful, I guess you can hunker instead. Weird choice. Throwing up bonus heal isn't bad, but doesn't make me want to take them. Doesn't make me want to itch my brain to work out to fit them into a list, and they feel like they're just the crosshair tag. The future Imperial Might, they have Sharpshooter and Impact 1, which is good because they get free focus. So it means they can be effectively rolling 8 dice at range, which is great. 9 dice at ranged. 7 at melee, which is, they don't want to be in melee. They have this weird short little tree, so 2 damage on 3 is bobbins, but if they get to 4, they can do 6 damage, and there's 2 of them, so they might just murder stuff. You with 8 dice and the decent, decent-ish, pretty decent. I mean, yeah, okay, it's a hit to a crit, but I'll take that. I mean, I'd rather it was just a crit, but a hit to a crit, and then a crit and a hit to a crit on 2. They're quite likely to do 8 damage. Sorry, 6 damage. And they're quite likely to do that twice because there's 2 bodies. And then that makes them okay, They're okay. They'll kill something. They got this awkward tag, and I don't really care about their supporting fire ability, but hey, they will kill stuff, probably. Yeah. They just won't do much besides that. Stormtroopers, the iconic Stormtroopers. So this is the first place where I look at it and I go, this is really sad that they have to take a damage because they have assault tactics here. They have spend a force to do a dash and a focus action, but they have taken damage. It's like, but they're a 4-cost. There's so many 4-costs in the game that just have this same ability without the damage. I mean, and it's a common complaint for Empire that sometimes the damage is just there to annoying and it doesn't seem like it's costed in. But at the same time, here it does seem annoying. Then again, the next ability is really, really good. So for the Empire, for a force, you can choose an enemy character, engage with one or more characters in this unit, and one of the allied characters it's engaged with, push the chosen enemy character 2 away from the chosen allied character, and then this unit gains exposed. Look, you pay a force and you expose yourself, but you're getting diceless displacement on a support. That's quite a lot of diceless displacement, right? Granted, you can only use it once, but you can have it in 2 different places if you want. It's really good. It's not I've written on the slide a diceless displacement and an exposed. Now you are exposing your self, right? It's not that good, but it's still there. And then you got Sharpshooter 1, which is cool because you've got a free focus. But before you get really happy about it, you only have 5 dice on your range stat, which is a little bit low. So you're kind of buying back dice you probably should have already had, 3 damage and shove on 3 is not the best, but you can expose your target. No, you can't because I misread the ability. Yeah, they're less good than I thought because for the Empire, it's giving them an expose. It is not giving their friend an expose. Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of the expertise tables. Yeah, they're just not very. There's better Stormtroopers like these black ones, better ones. Look at them. They're just more elite and badass. See, like it's like, oh yeah, they have Sharpshooter 1 and they get a free focus, and then they can have, or they can just have 6 dice on the card. Do you know? And these can get a focus and a dash for a force as well, and they don't have a downside. And it's still a 4-cost support. Like what? Supporting via dash is really interesting. If you can leverage it correctly, it's really powerful. And given they have protective detail below, which is if you're within 2 of a primary, the primary has cover. So maybe you're playing them near a primary. Not necessarily, because I'm convinced you want to kind of have them glued to a primary doing a bodyguard role, and you kind of view that as more of a nice to have. But it's there. And so handing out the dashes to attacking characters in 5 it could potentially be likely to happen in your game. And then they have elite training. They have protection and impact 1. So, the impact 1 is neither here nor there because they have an extra dice on their ranged compared to their melee. So the impact 1 just brings their melee up to equate their ranged, but it's there, it's fine. So you can be 7 dice effectively with either of your attacks. Look at their expertise tables are identical as well, so they really don't care whether they're shooting or punching. It has to be said. The stance tree is pretty good. 4 damage on 3, right? A shove on 2. It's a shame the second shove is for 4. What are you going to do? And yeah, the expertise table is pretty good. Death Troopers, I think, are just better Stormtroopers than Stormtroopers. And then Shore Troopers are better Stormtroopers than Death Troopers, is basically how this goes. So shore troopers have defensive maneuver. We know what it does, and they don't have to randomly hurt themselves to get an ability that everybody else just like in other factions just has as well, which is cool. And then they like because you could make the argument for stormtroopers like, oh well, the reason that they have to take a damage on their thing is because they have a dice of displacement. That's really good. Shore troopers also have the dice of displacement ability for the Empire. It's really good. It's not as good as I thought because they are taking that exposed themselves, not handing it out to a friend. But still, right? Garrison force. When a character in this unit makes an attack outside of their activation, like say if Director Krennic had made them do it, if this unit has one or more hunkers, you add a dice to the attack roll. Well, that's pretty good, especially considering they have their defensive maneuver, which is likely to give them hunkers, right? So that's cool. Additionally, by the way, as if it wasn't important, but secretly it's really good, while a character in this unit is contesting one or more active objectives, it has steadfast and protection. You'll love to see it. And then, of course, Sharpshooter 1. Now, yeah, you don't have the free focus, but you might decide to focus to get it. And if you don't, you're still getting 6 shooting dice, which is fine. It's not the, what was Stormtroopers on again? 5? See, so basically you've already got 1 dice baked in. And it means also that your 5 dice attacks out of activation are also going to be 6 dice attacks. Yeah, and if you have decide to use an active focus, you have that option to get +2 dice. It's there, right? Stances. So you do have to get to 3 to get a single push, which is sad, but you have access to dice as displacement, so that might not be top of your mind. 3 damage on 3 is also not the best, but a pin on 1 is super nice because you can pin someone with your attack, and then you can for the Empire them off the objective, and then they have to stand there and look at you, which is funny. These are not killers; they're tanks, right? But I really like the best stormtroopers in the game for my money. Speaking of stormtroopers for your money, if you are on a budget, these are your budget stormtroopers. They come in at 3 cost. They have force march. At the start of this unit activation, you can suffer a damage to remove a condition. I mean, actually, again, people complain about Empire having to take damage. This is not that bad because if the condition was strain, what you're basically saying is you take 1 damage instead of 3. Nice. And if the condition was pin, it's like, oh, you take 1 damage and still have a full activation where you get to do 2 useful activations. Really good. Okay. And if you don't fancy it, you don't have to do it. Assault tactics. Yeah. A dash and a focus with the damage. I will accept it on a 3 cost. And then Sharpshooter 1. Yeah. Well, you have free focus, so you can potentially roll 7 dice. Like, they're not great, right? But they're cheap. And they're stormtroopers. So if you find yourself making a list where you don't have enough points and you basically have to use these with Veers. It's just the way it is. Well, no, you could use Stormtrooper Sergeant and a 4-cost support. You don't have to use any of Veers' box of Veers. But why are you trying to make Veers work when Krennic is right there? So, yeah, I like them. They're okay. I just don't think there's very many places where you're like, yeah, I really need some cheap Stormtroopers. But maybe you're doing a weird list and then you want them. I don't hate them. They got a range 5 rifle. They're rolling 5 dice, which could be 7 dice. And they're standing there. Yeah, their tree it's fine. You can get 4 damage on 3 because you've got that damage on your expertise table, so that's standard. I think they're okay. Let's rank the sports. So, this ranking is weird because essentially, if you want an Inquisitorius, you're going to take 5th Brother. And then if you want a second Inquisitorius, you're going to take 4th Sister, right? If you want a Stormtrooper, you're going to take Shore Troopers. And then if you want a second Stormtrooper, you're going to take Death Troopers. If you want a Scout, you're going to take ISF. And I don't think you ever want the second Scout, right? So those top 5 things, the top 3 there, 5th Brother, the Shore Troopers, and the ISF, are really all equal because they're all your first choice for a particular kind of list that you're building, right? And then the Death Troopers and 4th Sister should be kind of viewed as being on the next tier because they're your second choice in those particular kinds of lists. Okay? Then, I don't understand when you're ever taking stormtroopers, unless you have an idea in your head that's like, look, I know Death Troopers are better than stormtroopers, but I really want both my sets of stormtroopers to have for the Empire, so I can max out dice displacement, because I think that'd be really tactically elegant for what I'm trying to do. Then I could see a world where you experiment with both of them. I think generally, though, that is a more experimental kind of a list, but it could be fun for you. Dark Troopers, if you're running a list with no synergy, then I'd take Dark Troopers over Elite Squad. They're actually really good. They're really tanky. They're really solid on points. They're just relatively few lists where I'm taking them. And then even in the lists where I don't need any synergy, I could still be told that Death Troopers are actually better than Dark Troopers in isolation. And then Delmico and Elite Squad, I think you should probably never take. I like Snow Troopers slightly better than ISB. I mean, you can make the argument ISB have pushes, a push, a second push if they get to 4, which they might do. Snow Troopers, generally, I'd rather have, if I'm going to have a pretty lackluster unit, a lackluster unit which prefers to shoot rather than punch is better, maybe. And also, they have the Stormtrooper tag, so there's more list building synergy there, whereas the only synergy ISB have is with Callus. I just think that's a non-starter as a thing. These are some lists. Look, Empire is such a vast thing that there are, like, I know because I hear the people on the internet. I know that right now all the noise on the internet for Empire is about running like Grand Inquisitor with Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I haven't put that list on here because I'm a bad person. I have my favorite primaries. I think Grand Inquisitor is amazing. Krennic's pretty good. I think Vader 2 is amazing. I think Moff Gideon's pretty good. I think Iden's pretty good. So what are these lists? First list is the list that I'd be most excited to play if I was going to start Empire. I'm not, but this would be the list I'd be most excited to play. It is Grand Inquisitor's box with Vader, Jedi Hunter, and Bosk. I think that's really powerful list, really strong. I think that should be half of your list in an Empire if you're doing Empire as your kind of theme for your premiere. I think it will be a good list, especially at the moment when everybody's trying to play Republic. I think that'll be a really great list just in general. Obviously, if you prefer Stormtrooper Sergeant to Bosk, then that is between you and yourself, right? I just think Bosk is cool because look at him. A twist on that might be fun is to say you could take Vader 3 if you have it, right? And then I like Campaign in that slot. You could take Krennic. Krennic does fine there. He doesn't have any stormtroopers to boss around, but he's got lots of primaries and secondaries that are going to wound and let him do his little thing, and he's going to be able to help you flip points. But I like Cad in there just to maximize him out because he synergizes nicely with Grand Inquisitor, so you're getting so much force back. And then because Vader 3 can eat quite a lot of force, you just feed all the force into him and it's fine. But that's experimental. I think probably the first list is better. Then squad underneath that is a version of Inquisitors that I think is pretty good. And basically, I would run that if I was playing Premier and I wanted to run Vader in my other squad, and then I'm basically going, cool, well, Moff Gideon can be the stand-in for Vader, and because he brings more squad points, I can bring in Boba Fett instead of like some useless 3 cost. And then because Boba Fett doesn't require any, he's not going to get any synergy from anybody else. He doesn't require any synergy from anybody else. He's going to run off and punch things and still be generating because he's Galactic Empire, generating force, and because Moff Gideon's there, so he'll be getting bonuses to punching. And then, so that's kind of iterations on the theme of Inquisitorious lists. Those are the 3 Inquisitorious lists I like, with some, yes, you could swap Cad for Krennic, and you could swap Bosk for Stormtrooper Sergeant if you don't want to use Bounty Hunters. I think Bounty Hunters are cool people. And you could swap Boba Fett for Death Trooper Escort as well, and I don't hate it, but I like Boba Fett better in that slot. Then we've got a Krennic Vader list. I think this is pretty straightforward. Krennic likes to boss around stormtroopers, so we pile in a load of stormtroopers, and then Vader Jedi Hunter is there because he will let all of your stormtroopers have more dice when they are punching things. You can argue stormtroopers don't love punching, Phil, but actually, Death Trooper Specialist quite likes punching. So there's that, right? And everyone else, will end up punching at various points. Like Shore Troopers don't hate punching, Death Troopers don't hate punching. Stormtrooper Sergeants are a lover, not a fighter, but like as much as say Empire's not really for punching, like they're not the best punchers in the world, but Darth Vader can make them the best punchers in the world, right? Or if you want, right? And here's basically my thoughts. You could take the top Inquisition list with Darth Vader in it, and then you could take the top list on the other side here, which is Krennic and Moff. Or you could take the list, which is Grand Inquisitor and Moff, and then you could take this list here, which is Krennic and Vader, in a Premiere format. And you'd have to decide between yourself which is better. So again, it's just a case of we swap Vader out for Moff, and then we can upgrade Stormtrooper Sergeant to the much cooler Death Trooper Escort, who's a cool guy. And then we got some other lists because I was like, well, what if I want to use Iden Versio and Elite Squad? I feel like Elite Squad is this thing, you put it in the list and it does its thing on its flank and it doesn't really help the rest of your list or hinder the rest of your list. So you're kind of building two independent half lists. So you could run Iden with Vader and Bosk and Dark Troopers, I guess. I mean, I'm trying to showcase lists where synergy is not that important to me, so I'm just thinking random stuff because I can, right? Or again, you could take Moth with Boba and Dark Troopers again. And that's my idea of some list. I filled the slide. I know that there's many other lists that you could do. If I was an Empire player and I was going to a Premiere event, I would take probably the Grand Inquisitor Moff Gideon list and then the Krennic Vader 1 list. That would be my Premiere force. There you go. And then, because I only talked for nearly 3 hours, the future. We know that these two boxes are coming out eventually. I haven't talked about them yet. They are not coming out until 2026, but they've been previewed. We don't even know that they're going to be straightforwardly Empire, right? Like the Secure the Future Squad pack might have the Empire tag. It might have like Boba Fett thing where it's, well, we see them and they're definitely on the Empire. Okay, they're on the Imperial Remnant side, but Shatterpoint has wisely decided not to distinguish between the Remnant and the Empire. So for Remnant in Shatterpoint rules terms, read Galactic Empire. And they we only ever see them, much like we only ever see Boba Fett really working for the Empire. We only ever see these working for the Empire. So I could see them having a thing where it's like, well, we can be Empire and we can be scoundrels, right? So I think that's interesting. And then the My Loyalty, My Life Squad pack. Now, same deal, except we have got, I've forgotten his name. He doesn't do anything in the Ahsoka TV show, and I don't really know why he's got a model. You know, Grand Admiral Thrawn's right-hand man who like presses a button on a console and that's it. He is straightforwardly, he must be Empire. The rest of the box, like zombies don't really have any loyalty. I guess the rest of the box is going to have Empire and Dathomir. Right? There you go. That's what's coming next for the Empire, maybe, or just next for Shatterpoint in general. Final thoughts. Empire of Vast. I've been talking for nearly 3 hours. It probably will be 3 hours by the time I've finished rambling on this slide. So this took a long while to put together and record. So if you've made it this far, please leave a comment down below just to say, well done. Well done. Please also tell me if you totally disagree with everything I've said. Empire is perhaps the group of people that I have the least. Like, I have a friend who is a Empire main player, but he is also the friend that lives the furthest away from me and that I play Shatterpoint with the least. Everybody who I speak to in the flesh regularly and play with regularly is either playing in Republic or basically they all play good guys. Huh. Or Mandalorians. Um, you know? So there's that. Do you disagree with any of my rankings? Do you have any favorite Empire lists? I'm sure you can think of loads of lists I haven't mentioned. As I've said, I am totally aware of the Thrawn and Grand Inquisitor list that's going around, which is fair enough. Do subscribe, comment, like, etc. Consider joining the Discord. A big thanks to all my members, people that financially support me every single month, because I won't get very many views on this video, but your financial support will tick in nonetheless. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. But especially to Alex, who is a member at the top tier and gets a shout out every single video, even if his surname has been cropped off the slide today because I obviously did a rush job. I'm sorry, Alex. Right, that's that done. I need to rest my voice a little bit. I hope you enjoyed the video. And that is the last big, long, really long Shatterpoint video that I have to do. What's coming up next? It's going to be a really short Shatterpoint video. It's about Hondo just by himself, and then we're done. We've talked about every single unit in the game. For now. Alright guys, I'll see you then. Bye bye. Bye bye bye. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye.